Hello, everybody, and welcome to 372 Pages We'll Never Get Back, a podcast book club where we read books that we are not expecting to like. We, of course, being me, Connor Listoka, and Mike Nelson, who joins me here as always. Mike, what's going on?
Oh, Connor, I'm enjoying a palm baya? How do you pronounce that? It's a
I
LaCroix
don't know,
flavor.
You clearly just made it up, so I don't know how to pronounce it.
It's a Dr. Seuss brand. No, this is apple cranberry. So I'm enjoying a LaCroix, and I'm trying to get my vocal cords warmed up to talk about Charles E. Harris and all that he has done, all he has bestowed upon the world.
Yes, Charles E. Harris, author of Truckin' Through Time, the time travel story about two Georgia boys who travel back in time to the 17th or 18th century, meaning 1600s or 1700s, and encounter a tribe of Indians, as well as some soldiers from the American Army, and it's all coming to a head with these guys. There have been some incidents that have riled up the U.S. Army, and they're planning an invasion when we last left them off. But we had our own little invasion this week. We hosted a call-in show for our Patreon supporters. We had people for about an hour. We opened up the phone lines, and people called in to give us their tips, their suggestions, just sort of rant in general. And I was pleased. There were very few lizard people call in.
I was surprised at that too. No denunciations of any particular group or person.
Only one guy who wanted to talk about sterilization through fluoride in the water supply. So.
There was the 10-minute rant on there's a second moon behind the moon, which but hey, our people.
Well, that was
into
me.
Different things.
That was. Just
I know that's what I was going to say. It was my subtle way to nudge you on from that topic. We're not going to make that stick.
Fine, all right. But yeah, it was fun to put voices to names, and fun to actually get a chance every time that we go out and at our live shows and stuff, when we run into people who want to talk about these books in the real world. It always seems like you're sort of doing something you shouldn't be doing, if you follow my drift. It's like talking about lunars or erotic trampling in the real world. These are conversations we should have from behind a computer screen, and not out on a bright sunny day. But
so you don't picture this kind of conversation going on at like the kids' soccer field and like, go Jimmy, kick it in there.
Right.
Anyway, in Charles Harris's book,
right.
in chapter 7,
right?
Did you notice that?
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't happen all that often, I would imagine.
Yeah. Notice you got that new Honda Odyssey. How's the crash rating on that? And what did you think when Grigner was disemboweling that rat to make a knife out of its spine? Yeah. So yeah, it does seem weird, but it was a lot of fun to have those conversations with people other than you and I. So thanks to everyone who called in for that, and we'll try to do another one soon. For those of you who support us on Patreon, the rest of you,
step it up.
Yeah,
step it up.
I was going to say I hope that your fluoride supply in your water does sterilize you, but
oh boy,
it comes across a little harsh. Anyway, we're going to do some trucking through time, but first we have some more reviews to calibrate. There was only one Amazon review for this book, but a listener page called to our attention the GoodReads page for trucking through time. And
excellent.
The only non-listener of this podcast who had reviewed the book was someone in 2013. Lord knows how they found it. His name is Rahik Al-Kahir, and he gave Truckin' Through Time 2 stars. He did not give any sort of text review, but he rated it 2 stars. So I think I'm going to go through some of the other books that he has reviewed on GoodReads and let you try to guess what he thought of them on the 5-star rating.
Boy, oh boy, that is a slim clue to go on. That is,
yeah.
Columbo finding a matchbook cover, and that's all I got. Okay,
yes.
But I'm good.
So number 1, Martha Stewart's Cookies, the very best treats to bake and share.
How can you hate cookies? 5 stars.
2 stars, Rahik.
What?
Rahik, maybe it's like a punitive thing. He didn't approve of her trading. Maybe he doesn't approve of her hanging out with Snoop Dogg. But yeah, 2 stars for Martha Stewart's Cookies.
Okay, well, that's a huge data point for me now, so I am fully calibrated. Now go on.
All right. Everyday Food, Great Food Fast by one Martha Stewart.
I would be a fool not to guess 2 stars.
The rating is 2 stars, yes.
Thank you.
I guess it's a fool him twice type of situation. The next one on our list, Food Matters, a guide to conscious eating with more than 75 recipes.
Do we know the author?
I do not know the author. I'm sorry, I did not jot that
it doesn't
down.
sound like Martha Stewart, though. So I'm going to say this is like a less corporate guy. He never lied to a federal prosecutor. I'm going to say 4 stars.
2 stars for Food Matters.
Rahik.
So we will continue on. The Barefoot Contessa Parties, ideas and recipes for easy parties that are really fun.
She's a Martha Stewart simulacrum, so 2 stars.
That one was awarded 2 stars, yes. Rahik gave that one 2 stars. Let's keep on going. We've got 4 more. Deceptively Delicious, Simple Secrets to Get Your Kids Eating Good Food by Jessica Seinfeld.
Look, Rahik, give up on the cookbooks and stick to Charles E. Harris novels. Maybe that's the extent of your 2 stars.
He gave it 2 stars.
Okay.
So
singular obsession.
You start to wonder whether he's just not coming up with recipes he likes, or maybe just if cooking at your home is not for Rahik, he should maybe try Blue Apron or something. But maybe he turned a corner with the America's Test Kitchen Family Cookbook. This is a book I actually have.
For the love of, is it like someone who has a wine on a trip to Portugal or something, and they keep trying to buy the wine,
chasing that high,
the memory of meeting this beautiful woman in some near a churchyard, and then they spit out every wine they taste after that. So 2 stars.
2 stars. It was correct. Yes. Then we have the Smitten Kitchen Cookbook. I believe that's a blogger who made their own cookbook.
I don't know this one, but boy, given the information I have at hand, 2 stars.
2 stars is correct. And our last one on the list, we have kicking it old school, Betty Crocker's Cookbook.
5 stars.
He gave it 3 stars.
There is
something about that one that stood out above every other cookbook he read and Truckin' Through Time. He deviated from his mean to award Betty Crocker 3 stars. So
what's amazing about it is if you look if you sift the data that he had just like hundreds of columns that he filled in, and they just all happened to work out that way.
Yeah, exactly. Photography,
recipes, it's 98 on that, but presentation 3. So.
So yeah, that's those were all just sort of in order. They were not. I did not cherry pick just cookbooks. That appears to be all he has reviewed, and he is not a fan of the genre. So there's also no real information for him if you search for his name. But anyway, so yeah, hard to calibrate his what might have been stood out about the Truckin' Through Time 2-star review based on that. But let's not go to his house if he has any dinner parties.
Yeah, and also you can't extrapolate from here. There could be a bunch of lost data. He has, hundreds of cookbook ratings, many of them 5 stars, and he also has hundreds of, like Moby Dick and the classics. So who knows? This is just the only data that we have available to us.
Of course.
So,
yeah, he could be doing it on another site, or he could have just done all his reviews on, barnesandnoble.com before that, went away. So, yeah, who knows? We're left to puzzle.
We're going to open up the lines for you. Call in. We want to talk to you.
All right. Well, so yeah, Truckin' Through Time. We left off at Chapter 11. And Chapter 11 begins with some the first of many discussions we're going to have in this section, where Captain Troy, who is the sympathetic character to the Indians and to our time travelers, is preparing to update the general, who has been known to who was the angry chief we determined in the previous segments.
Yes, and right off the bat, what I noticed is when he's thinking about giving the report, he says, "I have no idea how we will take the news."
Yes.
And I thought, whoa, someone who doesn't know how someone else will react. And I called up historian Lonner Kostoka, but I got no. It seemed like it was a prank number or something.
Bummer.
So I wasn't able to contact this person.
Yeah, because he wasn't sure how he would take this, but he had to have been sure he wouldn't think too lightly of the situation.
I think so.
Yeah, not knowing how the general is going to react to this, based on what we've seen of the general, is sort of like not knowing how Raik is going to react to a cookbook at this point in time.
But I'm pretty sure he won't take it more than 2 stars.
But yeah, so he's the general has been very just diverse and multifaceted in his what we've seen of him so far. But then we get some bad news when Sergeant Zero Hera comes back into the room. He's
back.
He's sporting the zero again, and he sort of weighs in on. He gives a report about the burial of everybody. In the last chapter we saw that they were going to get buried, and it was a task that no man wanted, but O'Hara comes back with the worse news than they were expecting. He says, "The men were too mangled to bring the bodies back, sir," O'Hara said, looking up at Jim Eagle. "They had all been scalped and dismembered. They really did a number on them after they were killed, too." So the timeline here of how the Indians work is very confusing. Because once you're dismembered, doing a number on that dead body is really... the mind soars trying to imagine what that might involve.
I really wish that Harris had opened up that world a little more. Yeah, what is beyond that?
Right, like using their arms to play putt golf or something, or you have to imagine some sort of sex thing must be on the table.
Yeah, there was this is very grim, and I'm not obviously in any way making light of this. There was years ago, Connor's already, his ears perk up. There was a serial murderer in Minneapolis who was murdering prostitutes. Mm-hmm. And the paper would only say, because they were obviously trying to keep this information, that he was posing their bodies in humorous ways.
Oh, my God.
Which sounds like, I wasn't trying to do Norm Macdonald there. But and I never learned what that was. But
I like the see no evil, hear no evil, like sorority girl cliche, or like...
I don't know what would be.
Yeah,
that's the only word they use. The cryptic humorous.
Humorous is very context
cracking up
dependent.
Yes,
exactly. Yeah. The rookie cop, instead of puking his guts out, is just stifling giggles the entire time.
Sergeant, I can't help it. But during that report, we get a very quick turn. Just after what you described, he said, "That's what took us so long. We had to bury so many different parts of the bodies." Chaplin said some mighty pretty words, though. So he's, lemonade, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Lemon's lemonade.
Yeah, silver lining, opening a window, and when you close a door type of thing.
Yeah, if you love your job, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah,
mighty pretty words out of the Chaplin.
And what was he possibly saying? Like, ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
I think we got Dave's arm in with his torso.
Yes,
I can't be positive.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Gus and Frank really didn't like each other, so it would be great if they were not mingled in this open grave. But thank you, Reverend. This is really touching. It'll be great news for all their widows back home. He's also there with Jim Eagle, and he thinks that Jim Eagle's presence is maybe going to smooth over the encounter with the general. He says that. O'Hara? No, Captain Troy. He says he doesn't know Wilson started this battle between the chief and the lieutenant, but it may not matter because of the general's hatred for the Indian. I need your input. Do you mind joining me with my report later on? And so he's essentially saying the captain hates the Indians so much that it's going to cloud his judgment when deciding whether to go to war. So why don't you come along, Jim Eagle, and smooth this whole thing out? Your presence will be the balm that this encounter needs.
While you're there, could you also just sort of dip your fingers in a bowl of vinegar and sort of flick it into his eyes while I'm sort of giving him the update? Just to keep him in a favorable mindset.
Right. This is the meanest bull in the stable. He's going to be enraged at the mere sight of red. So come on in with me, Kool-Aid man, and we'll really make sure that he doesn't get worked up when he's in the ring. But then they go in to talk to the general, and Jim Eagle, very much for the third time in this brief chapter so far, reiterates that the Indians were acting in their own defense because the fight was started by Patch. But the general does not take this very well. He has
what? The general?
There is so there's a build-up. There's a build-up that, like, once, of course, as a reader, you know he's going to be angry. And so it's hilarious to read, like, the sort of slow burn leading up to this. He says, because Wilson was the one that fired the first shots, along with Starnes. He also had to convince him that Wilson's crime against the Indians was much greater than that of stealing horses. If his mind is already made up to attack the village, it will take some convincing to change it. He must be cautioned about the lives it would cost in the long run, as well as the length of time that it would take to end it. So they're very much acting like there's a chance they're going to be able to convince him here, which clearly, we very quickly see is not going to be the case.
Oh, very quickly. And you talk about Troy's reiteration of something here. Troy is downright taciturn compared to the reiterations that happen in the rest of this. I mean, for the love of God, I had to make sure that my bookmark just didn't fall out of the book, and I'm rereading this. Like,
it is
stunning. The incident with the two guys. Shooting Bad Eye and Starnes, is it? Shooting
yes.
the guys and causing the war. That lasted like 2 sentences when it originally happened. The reiterations are like Tolkien's universe.
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yes. They are doing their own little myth making of this event by, there's going to be an epic poem by the time they're done with it. There's not also just not, it's not just the recounting of this. We get multiple reports given to the general about the same incident, to the point that you said I had to verify when these two different reports happened just because they were so similar. But we do sort of get the first. The general does not get a oral report. Troy has prepared it for him, and so he hands the general a report, and the general reads the report, which is even more exciting than it sounds.
This is a stunning paragraph. This is one of those where I had to do some research. I'll just quickly read through it because it is the most, I mean, in any other book, you would just say we threw the report in front of the general and we waited nervously in this, in the mess tent, picking over our, SOS and talking about the day's events. We were summoned back into the general's office. No. We get the whole thing. It's all in the report, General. The general grunted and began reading the report with a smug look on his face. The two men sitting in front of him just looked at one another and then back to the general, knowing he was not going to like what the report stated. Okay, so they looked back and forth.
Sure.
Now, then, they sat calmly and waited for the general to explode in his usual manner when he was dissatisfied with someone or something. Neither the captain nor Jim Eagle felt very comfortable. So they're sitting calmly, not feeling comfortable.
Yes.
because of the contempt and anger he showed on his face with each sentence. So they're tracking which sentences he's reading.
And he has a usual manner of exploding when he was dissatisfied with someone or something, like the coffee maker or something. He might also explode at, because that's just his usual manner. So again, what were they expecting was going to happen here, and how was Jim Eagle's presence going to smooth it over?
Well, and then it finishes, he didn't look up to respond until he was completely finished, which you might expect from a report. So anyway, I looked into this, and this is stunning news. Are you sitting down?
No, I have a standing desk.
Okay, stand up. Then.
I'll do a wide stance to like an earthquake. I'll like I'm standing in a doorway.
Athletic. You're about to you're going to be pitched a ball, or you're going to receive a tennis serve.
Okay,
right,
perfect. Yeah.
There is I unearthed, because this just made no sense to me, but we know that Harris had to be getting at something.
Mm-hmm.
And so he, in addition to writing this, he did produce his own audiobook of...
Oh my God!
Sorry. I'm sorry.
I wasn't standing wide enough. I
should have prepared you even more. Smack your head right into your stand-up.
Yeah, I hope the downstairs neighbors did not hear that.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So he had something in mind that he sort of recorded as a proof of concept.
Correct. Only little bits of it survive. This is exclusive here at 372. An exclusive. This is, I don't know who the actors are. I don't know, but this came from the desk of Charles E. Harris. This is that very paragraph played out. So let's give it a listen.
Hit me.
Collins and Jim Eagle sat before the general.
I see the scouts are back. Did they bring Wilson in?
It's all in the report, General.
The general grunted and began reading the report with a smug look on his face.
You two, I'm better than you are.
The two men sitting in front of him just looked at one another, then back to the general, knowing he was not going to like what the report stated.
Boy, oh no, no kidding. It's nerve-wracking. What is happening?
They sat calmly and waited for the general to explode in his usual manner when he was dissatisfied with someone or something.
Be calm. I am calm. It's gonna explode.
Calm. Neither the captain nor Jim Eagle felt very comfortable as the general read the report because of the contempt and anger he showed on his face with each sentence.
I'm not very comfortable. I am not comfortable either. Do you think that's comfortable for me? No, I don't think it's comfortable for you, but I just look at his face. It's contempt and anger. Oh, God, I hate you. I hate you. Oh, I'm so angry. God, I'm so angry. Oh, contempt. Oh, you just utter contempt. I am not very comfortable. This whole experience is very uncomfortable. This is so uncomfortable. Just look at his face.
He didn't look up to respond until he was completely finished.
Right, I'm finished. Whew.
Wow.
Wow.
True to his vision, I feel like Yep, that's what he was getting at.
Yeah.
He put it down on paper, and he put it in audio in the same...
And you say it doesn't have, like in the metadata, it doesn't have who the actors were? Because I thought maybe like Michael Winslow from Police Academy, or like it has some of that like mouth sounds of like Bobby McFerrin. You know how he used to do that, or like how Tom Waits. Yeah. It was that sort of.
Yeah, that's good. You know what? I don't know because I got it. It's the eBay. You know, you get a cracked yellow envelope, and I just so I just open it up and unearth that.
And it was
I'm
on
still
like
working through it. I might find some more. Who knows?
It's great.
Who knows? Yeah.
What format did it come in on eBay?
It was a 1/4-inch tape.
I'm not familiar.
I had to buy the equipment for it.
Wow.
I don't know. Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, that's why we got the Patreon
investment,
running. Okay, that makes sense.
372 is bankrupt again for the third time.
Yes. We built it back up after those players took us to the cleaners, and now you've ruined us again. All right. Well, yeah. So that was. I think that will stick in everyone's head, but. We move on to everyone's favorite pastime in this book, which is crapping on Collins, who is, I think it's amazing. He says, the general says, "You also sent Collins to recon the village, knowing the man is not capable and is probably in their custody as we speak." So I just enjoy the fact that Collins is universally hated by every single character, not just our heroes who sort of encountered him. He's just, even his general cannot stand the man.
I like that he thinks he's incompetent rather than he's just a bumbling fool.
Right.
But you don't often get a bumbling fool who's also just sort of he seems like a narrow-eyed, mean as a snake and just hates the world. And
yeah. Pure spite. I mean, you sort of understand it based on how everyone treats him. He's sort of like Malvolio in like in the 12th Night. I think you compared him to Jerry from Parks and Rec. So two similar comparisons there. But so he plays a large part going forward because he gives his own has his own meeting with the general later. So you have that to look forward to based on maybe we'll have a recreation of that if it turns up.
Don't we have a meeting with the two captains? For which, I mean, we'll get to it, but I might have some questions about that because they kept saying, said the captain. And I believe Captain Troy, and isn't Collins a captain?
I don't know Collins' rank. I've not been able to get that yet.
I got to look at the spreadsheet. I'm sorry.
But it's Collins and the general is Rollins, which they don't give you that too often, but when they do, it serves to be just often enough to be very confusing.
It's very confusing.
But we have the spreadsheet that I think was it Heather who made, but they have their own spreadsheet in the book too because someone says I was not sure that the story Dale and Chad's story was on the up and up, so I sent their names to Washington to find out if they were really from where they say they're from and if they are who they say they are. So this is a lot to unpack here. So they're sending their names, I guess, via telegraph to Washington, who we must assume is having a good laugh over the name Dale Rhea. I was very curious how this was going to work. How they were going to get two names, Chad Hand and Dale Rhea, and then Washington was going to be like, Washington in quotes, the Royal Washington was going to be like, well, computers don't exist, so I guess we'll just start combing through handwritten records of everyone who's ever born, and then we'll have an answer for you in 3 years or so.
Yeah, this is you've reached Washington in the 17th century. Which is the 1700s. Have we had a census yet?
Right.
How detailed has that been? You know what? Let me check on that, and we'll get back to you somehow.
Yeah.
Do we have a Pony Express yet? I don't know about that either. I will check on that as well.
We will send word to our nearest neighbor, so we'll hear back from them in 18 days. And
we will light the fire towers. Oh, I'm told we don't have fire towers, so just stay tight. Stay right there.
So yeah, that's the sort of thing where if he was just like we sent them Pony Express and they'll that we'll hear back from them in 3 days. If he just sort of hand waved that away, but providing no explanation raises more questions than even a dumb explanation would have.
Yeah, well, he the time thing is a little confused with that because he's basically, like, we'll call the FBI kind of thing.
Right.
But also in the language of I think this is now the 59th description of the kid and the wife of the chief.
Yes.
You have to realize that Wilson injured his only son and molested his wife.
Yeah.
And also started a conflict that caused some of his braves to be killed. So this is not only modern language, it's also, as they used to call it, Nixonian language.
Yes.
A conflict that caused. So it was the conflict that caused. That was the agency. It was the conflict itself, not the people involved.
Right. Yeah.
He injured his only son,
which
is an odd. I mean, I guess that is technically correct.
Sure, he was injured to the point where he was on death's door and in a coma. That was that kind of injuring.
I just don't picture a guy with a big handlebar mustache spitting tobacco into a fire going, yeah, he injured his only son and molested his wife. We don't...
Molested is a very...
He beat the shit out of that guy.
Yeah, I suppose it's just the kindly old, grandpa that is Charles E. Harris wanting to avoid, the nastiness of what the molesting would have actually involved. But yeah, it's like...
Charles E. Harris doesn't seem unwilling to wade into any gruesome thing, as we shall soon see.
Yes, but it is. It's like a game of telephone where they've gradually made it... They've absolved themselves of any libel claim as it has been passed back and forth.
It's Larry, the guy from Jaws, who I think we've referenced before, when he's talking to the news crew and like, we've got the shark that injured a few bathers.
Right.
This is what it's down to now.
Right. But that doesn't even seem like that's not like the general trying to pass it off. That is that's their advocate who is defending them by using those terms. So it's, but then, so after they leave that, I guess, Warpaint was another Indian who was there with them the whole time, and says after they entered the captain's office, Warpaint offered his solution to the problem. Let's just shoot the general. Solve whole problem. They all laughed and sat for coffee. I just imagine Warpaint being like, No, guys, I was serious. Like, it's the Wild West. It literally, like, why don't we just do that and like go back to where we are and nothing will happen to us?
Yeah, I honestly thought that was sort of genuinely the funniest line in the book.
Right.
It is, if you take it at face value,
right.
Just shoot him.
Right. Yeah, I mean, your name is, we can just get sub in Collins. Like, was every time someone says Rollins, he'll pretend like he heard his name, and that will solve the whole problem in sort of a, French farce kind of way.
Yeah, this is not getting back to Washington for 6, 7, 8 years.
Right,
tops,
yes. That's all I have for Chapter 11.
Same here. Chapter 11, ironically, what Charles E. Harris's family is in now, because this book ruined them and caused them to file bankruptcy.
No way. I think they have been, if there is if the publisher is still making payments, they're going to be opening up a check, and it's going to be the same, falling back out of frame and then sweat things flicking into the comic strip frame from the shock when they open up the the royalty check from all our listeners having bought this dumb book.
Oh, speaking of, there's a few projects that I did in the past that I still am required to get royalty check statements on.
Uh-huh.
And it's like the ability of your worst enemy to just send you meaner and meaner notes, because there's no way I'm ever going to get any money on it, but I'm still getting the statements. So it's like you wouldn't pay us back on the money that we paid you in advance for another 600 years, you idiot. That's what it looks like every time I open it. Yes. I'm sorry, man.
I got the first one of those from the pole vault audiobook, where so it was set at a certain number of sales is going to trigger a decent chunk of change. Anything before that doesn't matter. And so I got the first one, and I was like, how close are we to that new? Oh, wow. Oh, it will never happen. All right, good to know.
Your internal auditing says it costs $4 million to make this. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
It was like it will literally never happen. So, all right, I'm glad we have shared experiences.
For the rest of your life, my friend.
Well, on that cheery note, let's move on to Chapter 12. Which begins with a funny mental image, which is Chad and Dale had taken Collins to their lodge to let him rest on the soft buffalo hides to regain his composure. So I'm just imagining, Collins sort of lounging like Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park on these soft buffalo hides. It's not really an image that, if you ask me to describe a buffalo hide, I don't think that soft was going to be one of the first words I would have pulled out of my descriptive bag.
Yeah, instead of the what's the bear for the fabric softener?
Snuggle.
Snuggle's the little bear. It's a rough buffalo hide.
Yeah, they're still lice.
A giggling buffalo.
Yeah, like they're skinned very roughly, so there's probably still some tendons attached to them.
Well, you said Jeff Goldblum. It's funny. My picture was, of course, Joe Namath in pantyhose lounging on it. So what does that say about the two of us? I don't know.
Great.
Calibrate your tastes, people at home.
But then he says they're sort of briefly sympathetic. Chad says, it looks like you've had a rough time of it. And then one paragraph later shifts to, you must be out of your mind, Collins, Dale said. So they're sort of giving him the good cop, bad cop routine. But for the most part, it's all bad cop when it comes to Collins.
Yeah, this is where, when you were talking about Chad and Dale at the beginning, I was like, they, so far they've been kind of lovable and a little bit horny.
Yes.
Now we're getting the deeply judgmental. They both turn on a dime. They are both very, very, finger wagging to an extreme that is quite extraordinary.
Yes, and
especially given the evidence of their own eyes about the people that they're talking about.
Right. Yes, they have
Let's dig into that.
They have been introduced to the torture pole already, but they're still sort of on board, and I think it's just based on that book that Dale read in the back of the truck as they were heading out there. So that must have been a really persuasive tome he picked up at the truck stop. But yeah, it says Collins says he is a white man, damned well sure they'll torture him for as long as they can. He will die a horrible death. And one of them says, I'm sure you're right, Collins. For the first time ever, they have agreed with him. Says, but he should have thought about that before he decided to attack the woman and the boy. And so we do get a lot of talk about justice and the sort of justice system. which is we can't help but believe these are the author's own views that were being inserted into these characters for the rest of the book. So they come across pretty ham-fisted, but more on that as we get to it.
As he says, the Indian kills only for food or to defend themselves. They really haven't made that clear. This is still from the book.
Yes.
Wilson kills for the pure pleasure of doing so, which, may or may not be true, but now Chad and Dale are able to peer into the hearts of people and know their motivations.
Right.
But further, so the description of women and children finding any object they can to the tied-up guy and hacking him with them.
In a spirit of anger, I think. That was...
Yeah, pure defense. Pure self-defense.
But yeah, and then he tosses in for the 12th time, the Philosophy 101. So you tell me who the savage is here. Point.
Yeah, he looks around and no one, they're just kind of looking at the ground like,
right.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's the David
did I
David
say that
Brent.
already back there?
Yes, the racial. But then he says, he goes back, he keeps going. Dale began, the land was occupied by the Indians long before the white man came. Now the white man wants it. I mean, at this point, the Indians have got to be like, oh my God, like, we know, please, we do not need you as an advocate. Like, you are only, like, people who agree with you are irritated by this point in time. But, so he says, now the white man wants it and is willing to take it by whatever means available to them. And so you hear that, you hear whatever means available. You're like, oh, that doesn't sound good. Assault, disease, genocide. Dale says, even by hook or crook.
Yeah.
That is, even that. Okay, all right. You've made your point. These men are ruthless, hook or crook.
Right. He only got halfway through it by hook. Hang on, I'm not finished. Or crook.
Yes. The white man's like, oh God, no. Like we had, we had the common cold germ isolated that we were going to destroy their weakened immune systems with. But yeah, I guess hook or crook is even worse.
Here's another great, the shaming just goes on and on. They were hunting this land and protecting their interest, while your ancestors were burning women at the stake for witchcraft.
Yes. So yeah, that's directed towards Collins. I loved that.
Wow. First of all, Collins could probably be like, you know what, that episode, it wasn't in our textbooks. That was, there was only 20 people who died. Wasn't a big deal for us. I understand you guys have sort of turned it into a metaphor, but it wasn't a big deal for us.
Yeah. Or he could have been like, look, I'm from Delaware.
Yeah,
I was 1,000 miles from the puritanical places where all that was happening, you jackasses.
And they never, during all of these rants, they never go like, hey, Chad, where are you from? I'm from out east somewhere. Oh, Chad.
Right.
It's never a question of like, they're white men, right?
Yes. Yeah, they're from that hotbed of tolerance, the deep South.
I think it's just funny that they, I guess, when you're a proselyte, you're a recent convert, you're more on fire. And they read that book and it really set a fire.
Yes, it is. It is the kid home for the first time from college at Thanksgiving.
Dad,
ranting at the table. So, yeah, I don't know. But, the fact that it's directed towards Collins did make me laugh at that.
Yes.
And if it is the 18th century, I don't know, his ancestors, it could have been his father at this point in time, if he's from Massachusetts.
He's still alive. He's still doing it.
Yes. And then he keeps going, and I like this because I will let you know when the sentence ends. Their land is sacred to them. To that white man, it is a movement for power, money, and the destruction of a people for expansion and the possibility of gold, silver, and more room for cattle and cities for white men that could absolutely care less about the beauty of the land that God gave us. End of sentence. So,
well, I'm convinced.
Yeah, I think that was just sort of him getting worked up and not really knowing where he was going to go and then trying to stick the landing at the end of that one.
Right. So, and Collins, meanwhile, he's just lounging on these soft buffalo hides going, I'm rubber, you're glue, buddy. I don't care.
Exactly. He's sort of being just like, wow, yeah, the more you sink into them, the more you really feel how soft they are, man. I am glad they use every part of this animal.
Getting up on one elbow to go, what's that, Easterner? As they're now calling them. I forgot that. That was another thing they tagged on them. Easterners.
Right. Well, they tag it with another one right here, too. Chad is fed up. Dale, You talk to this bigot. I'm through trying to make him understand common sense, which is funny. Like his attempt to make him understand common sense was just a page-long run-on sentence rant that
Yes.
But then Collins responds with his sort of go-to at this point in time. He's got his quip, and he's going to be damned if he thinks of a new one. I don't eat dog meat, Collins said sarcastically. And then they said, you've made your point, Collins. So I don't know if that was an intentional double down on Collins or Harris's part, but he did say that in our last section.
Oh, right. Yeah. So, but they do, they end it pretty well, like, rest here a while. You can leave when you want. So just remember you're a bigot, to which Collins is like, I've never heard that word before.
Yes, exactly. Right. Some sort of, I don't know, that sounds like maybe an Indian term to me, which means I dislike it. Right. It's like a Ute? I don't know. But so my theory just ended up being that Harris must have known a guy named Collins that he hated, and so this is just 100%. The South Park guys did that. They had a character named Scott Tenorman that was based on some guy I think that quit the show, and they humiliated him in an episode, and it ended with him eating his own parents in chili that Cartman had fed him. So I'm guessing that's what's going on here.
Right, he's just lashing out. Yeah. But also I noted though that a little bit of reverse bigotry there with he says, I don't eat dog meat, and that's his racist thing, and they go, it's elk, not dog, to which dog eaters might be going, who are it's culturally appropriate in places around the globe, going, hey, come on, man.
Right.
We're the only ones who everyone agrees sucks. Come on.
Right. I mean, I'm not gonna go to
saying what's sauce for the goose. That's all I'm saying.
It is true. I mean, I ate horse last month, and that was 100 miles north of here. So I guess let someone prepare dog well, and I'm sure you would try it.
I would. I believe I think my brother had it in the Philippines.
Oh boy,
just like. I don't know. He saw a lot of. He said it was a little bit shocking when he first got there, as he was stationed there a while, and he saw them carrying like a skinned German Shepherd.
Oh my God!
Through the streets.
It is. It does. It has
just culturally. Yeah,
it has
it's not a
different reaction.
It's used as an insult, but it is an actual thing. I'll leave it there. I'll just set that there.
All right, we are a dog eater friendly podcast.
That's right.
And then they go back outside, and they very quickly go from criticizing Collins to someone saying, the lovely maiden you saw with Chad is soon to be his wife, so I wouldn't say anything more about the Indians. You can tell the general he can come to their wedding if he minds his manners. It's open to the public for all to witness. And so I was just like, I don't imagine this is going to happen, but my fingers are crossed that the general attends this wedding, and we get some of his trademark twitching and grunting, and like as he goes through the receiving line to congratulate them on this point.
Well, now that I'm here, I might as well congratulate her.
Yeah.
Hug for you, darling.
If anyone has any objection, please stand now or forever hold his peace.
Grunt.
Yes. But they leave the tent with Collins lounging and get one of my favorite exchanges. Damn it, boy! Collins is one angry cowboy.
I believe Collins' last word was just sort of a sullen, I don't eat dog meat.
Right.
He didn't seem all that angry, but whatever, compared to Chad and Dale, who are mostly cheerful.
Yes. But they get out of there, and we were very quickly thrown into the this soon-to-be wife thing caught me as a surprise. I don't think that had really been called to our attention or really been spelled out that much. But he says, one of them says, you will marry me, fast cat? Big Bear said it to Collins. Is it true you want me for your woman? Excitement and passion were glowing in her eyes. Princess, I would marry you before Congress, the entire Sioux Nation, and before all the armies in the world. You excite every sense, from passion to panic. And I don't know, panic might be one you leave out of your proposal, out of your wedding vows. Dearest, you make me panic. My chest feels tight, and I feel like my entire world might fall apart, and I'm consumed by utter agony as my throat catches and I'm unable to catch a breath.
I grab a paper bag, I breathe shallowly into it, but it does not quell the sense that I have that all is wrong with the world and doom awaits us. The sword of Damocles hangs over my head, and I know I shall die knowing no one ever loved me, darling.
Yeah, in a good way, in a lovely way then. So I'm not sure exactly what she's supposed to take away from that, but the conversation continues. Damn it, boy, this sounds serious. Dale laughed and looked at Dancing Leaf, who blushed and said with the same kind of smile Dave held on his face, I told you, Big Bear, they are much in love. I will ask permission from the chief tomorrow, Lightfeather said. As the drums began to beat and people began to dance around the large fire in Wilson. So it is revealed that this entire proposal had taken place at the torture pole. Which, that was sort of a, it pans out the entire time. And Wilson's been, hanging there like half unconscious, blood dripping, black eyes. I'm really happy for you both. Speaking of panic, I have a bit of panic of my own, considering I'm strapped to the torture pole.
I was hoping for the smash cut to his bloody face, just cuts all over it, like, say yes, say yes.
Yes, exactly.
Come on, damn it.
Where are you registered?
I'll have what she's having. But by the way, don't, I know you're not going to go back to it, but that sentence, the marriage proposal has one of my dumb sentences of the week.
Okay.
So
all right.
We'll leave it there. Yeah. So, meet me by the torture pole. Oh, what for?
Yes.
Well, I'm going to ask you to marry me, of course, you idiot.
Whew. Wow. You really had me panicked there. And I guess I still kind of am since I'm with you.
Oh, panic. Okay. So this now begins. I think this is the linchpin of the book.
Oh.
I mean, we're not at the end, but to me, this is the cornerstone. This
Absolutely.
Is
yeah.
We have reached bedrock. We have reached the raison d'etre of Mr. Charles E. Harris.
Yes.
I assume
You did an interview this week that was published about Roadhouse's 30th anniversary, where you compared the whole thing as being like the first three movements of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, and then finally you get to the Ode to Joy, which is the throat-ripping scene, and we are approaching that. We're approaching the most exclamation marks I've ever written in one of the books we've done. But it does build a little as we get to that moment. So let's set the stage for everybody who's maybe not reading along. Chad and Dale watched the ceremony continue as the woman danced around Wilson, as each took a swipe at him with switches or sticks. The children did the same thing as the woman, but with more anger and force. Wilson could hardly hold his head up, but was shown no mercy. From where Chad and Dale stood, it was an ugly and disgusting sight. Which is sort of like, you're at a concert and you're like, oh man, I can't see Bob Dylan from where I'm standing. I bet if I move over behind that other guy, I bet it's a lot better view. So maybe I'll go over there. I think it's probably ugly and disgusting just about everywhere as they're beating this man who's strapped to the torture pole, guys.
Right. I would maybe amend that to, is it G.G. Allen? Is that his name?
Oh, yeah.
That would be from where I'm standing.
Yeah. The stage defecation looks great. Oh, and now he's rubbing it in that wound he just got with his, when he opened up a bottle by carving a pentagram into his chest. Oh, man. I'm glad I staked this spot out 2 hours ahead of time.
Oh, and again, from what you just described as they took swipes at him with switches or sticks, only to defend themselves. Just putting parentheses around that again.
Sure.
Let's keep that in mind.
Then the chief walks up. He walks to Wilson, took his hair in his left hand, and held his head up to make an incision across his forehead from one side to the other. Wilson screamed as the chief placed his fingers in the incision and yanked the scalp off with one quick jerk. Chad, from where we stand, that is pretty gross. I don't know.
Oh man, that one got me.
Yeah, it's just having to think about that is happening while you're alive is I was dealing with an ingrown toenail the other day that was sort of like maybe can just sort of pry this out, but that was painful and gross enough.
Yeah, but It does not go to waste because it gets handed right to Slim Fox. The pain this dog has caused you has now been avenged. This is your trophy to remember that white man is not to be trusted. Take it and place it on our lodge pole. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, boy. Mean Joe Green.
Right.
Here you go, kid.
And yeah, so you'd be forgiven if you were listening without having read it, assuming that this is what we were talking about as the apex of the book. However, the chief handed the knife to Blue Dawn, and she turned to face Wilson, who was still screaming. She reached for his penis and cut it off, bringing a death-defying scream from Wilson. Everyone again yelled approval as she tossed the bloody piece of meat into the fire. And the most exclamation marks I've ever written in a book, in all caps, oh my God. Just looking again back on the book to old Charles E. Harris standing there proudly by his truck in his Tennessee Volunteers shirt, and just like the idea of handing it off to his friends and neighbors for the first time to yeah, old Chuck, he finally did it, wrote that book I've been talking about. And they get to page 194 and wow.
I picture Jim Tice is he's up in heaven, and the gates open, and here comes Charles E. Harris, and there's just a slow clap.
Yes. You did it.
I thought my stuff was macabre.
Yeah.
My God,
you
man.
crazy bastard.
You son of... And in a book called Truckin' Thru Time. Bravo.
You get the first ever wang severing and then tossing the bloody piece of meat onto the fire. I just had only, a description of the blistering skin or the aroma of it would have been the real kickoff to make this one of the best passages we've ever read.
Yeah. Well, I actually thought that a funny quick sketch about it would be the editor reading it and going, reading that entire description and going, quick question about that. Well, actually, I have a couple. What the hell is a death-defying scream?
Sure, yes.
Actually, that's my only question about
right,
that.
Yeah. Let's just choose a different word there. Blood curdling. How does that sound?
Then I think we're good.
Yeah, all right, perfect. Well, yeah, I'm glad you didn't write that one up, though, because this is, believe it or not, this is what I went to the dark web looking for. I was curious.
What?
Well, I was curious if this was something that was actually happened, whether this was recorded evidence of this. And I got distracted pretty early on searching for this. I have no idea if this is something that the Sioux would do on a torture pole. But what I did find is that this was sort of a pet. I don't know if it's a catchphrase, but it was something that he was sort of hung up on. Harris.
Chuck Harris?
Yeah, in the course of his life, it was something that he was sort of like, this wasn't the only time that things like this would rear his head, and it got to be sort of a sore subject with his family. So he would be,
oh dear.
Yeah, he would be doing this, and they sort of were like, oh man, this is sort of weird. Grandpa keeps doing this, and so they had been recording him in case it ever was something they needed to be like play back for him at an intervention, because you can not realize that you're doing something. So if you have a recording of it, you play it back, you're like, oh, I guess I really do say that a lot. I should be more sensitive, type of thing. So they had, family recordings of him that they uploaded, or I guess maybe got hacked and ended up on the dark web. So I got one of those.
So there's a place on the web you can go to get the recordings that Charles E. Harris's family recorded to catch him up in an intervention, should they ever need to have an intervention.
There is no ebook of this book, but that exists. Yes.
Wow.
So yeah,
imagine if you were trying to do like a sketch about that. That setup would be so impenetrable. There would be no way. But this is amazing that you have the actual thing.
Good. Yes, it was. Yeah, it would have been weird otherwise to project this sort of thing onto a kindly old man. But let's take a listen to that.
Okay.
Grandpa Chuck, will you tell me a story?
Hey, that's a great idea. What do you say, Dad? Bounce your grandson on your knee and tell him one of those stories you used to tell me growing up.
Say, why not? Hop up here, Timmy. Whew, you're getting big. Let's see. Story. Oh, well, once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there was a sly little elf named Rumpelstiltskin.
That's a silly name.
No, I'll say. And he made a bet with a farmer that in 3 days, the farmer wouldn't be able to guess his name. And after the third day, the farmer couldn't guess it. So Rumpelstiltskin chopped his wiener off.
But, Dad!
What?
That is not how the story goes.
It's a folk tale. It varies depending on where in the world you're telling it.
No, it does not. Tell him a normal story.
Fine. Well, way back when your grandpa was a little boy, the greatest baseball player in the world was Babe Ruth. And one day, he walks up to the plate and decides, I'm going to call my shot. So he points to the outfield stands and gets ready to swing, and then a crazed fan runs onto the field and chops the babe's wiener off.
Dad!
But the events of that day are disputed.
Yeah, whether he called the shot or not whether a lunatic cut his wiener off. Stop making stuff up.
Fine. Well, Timmy, here's a story from American history. William Henry Harrison was our 9th president, but just a few weeks into his term, he started feeling a little funny. So he got up in the middle of the night and went to get a midnight snack, and then, bam! A rat trap snapped shut on his wiener, chopped it right off.
Dad!
What?
That is not what happened. Gave his inauguration speech in the rain and got pneumonia.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that sounds a little too convenient of a cover story, don't you think?
You know what? I think Timmy would like to hear a story about a woman for a change.
Fine. Well, once upon a time, Timmy, there was a strong, independent woman.
Oh, God, that's better.
Her name was Lorena Bobbitt.
Dad!
No, you asked for it.
Look, the holidays are coming up. Just tell him a nice, normal Christmas story.
Well, sure. May as well get in the merry spirit. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The children were nestled all snug in their bed, while visions of sugar plums danced in their head. Ma in her kerchief, I in my cap, had just settled down for a long winter's nap. Then bam! Rat trap!
Dad!
What?
Here, just read him this Dr. Seuss book. Stick to the words on the page.
Fine, I will. Hop on pop. Hop, hop, hop. Hop on pop.
Yeah, that's better.
Pop got chopped.
Dad!
Well, what? He went to the barber for a haircut. See? Right there.
Okay.
Pop got chopped. Chop, chop, chopped. Then Pop went to the cleaner. Cleaner.
Dad!
Oh, this book sucks.
Well, I suppose you could write a better one.
Well, maybe I did, smart guy. Here.
What the? Trucking through time? Dad, you wrote a novel?
Well, I don't just sit around all day watching The Price is Right.
Chad and Dale? Historical adventure? Wolves? Indians? Fuzzies? Qualcomms? Thunder snow? I've got to say, Dad, I'm really impressed.
Thank you.
Oh, well, we've got to go now, but I will read this to Timmy before bed every night. I love you, Dad.
I love you too, son. Wait till he gets to page 194.
No human being is ever going to read that stupid book, let alone a group of weirdos reading it all together. Oh, man,
Yeah.
he was.
Yeah.
What happened to that guy?
I guess he just thought it was sort of funny. I don't know. And so maybe we're meant to have read this thing in Trucking Through Time as a comedic interlude. I mean,
Well, I mean, yeah, Chad is not just funny and charming on his own. That has to come from the author. An author's creation can't be greater than the author himself. So
exactly.
We have to assume he was very funny.
Exactly. Yeah, it's sort of, it's a man getting hit in the groin with a football, just sort of on a bigger scale, I suppose. But so thanks to the family members of Charles E. Harris that recorded all that stuff for us. We'll see if any of those ever turn up again as we proceed forward towards the end of this book. This was a nice little bit of understatement, I thought. It says that once he's doing the death-defying scream, spoiler alert, did not allow him to defy death, because we are informed that Wilson soon gave up the ghost and was gone. Which was, I thought, just a fun little folksy way to tap off the genital mutilation and scalping.
Please, genital mutilation is strong. She molested the soon-to-be dead body of...
Yes. And then they raised its core temperature by a couple degrees by tossing it on the fire.
Right. They injured a trapper. Is all that happened. I like that they when they did put him in the fire, Dark Horse took the other end, and they held Wilson high and eased him over the large fire.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Easy, guys.
Yeah.
Easy. I just had my penis cut off.
It's like getting into a hot tub. You're like,
Jolting
ooh,
me around.
ooh, that's hot. No, you'll get used to it. Okay, all right. I'll take it slow.
Oh, so luckily they eased him into the hot blazing flame.
And then we get this fun little thing as they're sort of wrapping up and they're going back to go about the rest of their day. Probably get a bite to eat or play a softball or something. The chief walked over to Chad and Dale and patted them on the back, smiling as he said something to them, and walked away with Blue Dawn and Slim Fox. And they do not tell us what he said, but I'm guessing it was something along the lines of, "How'd you like the dick severing?" Huh?
Top 5 for me.
Yeah, exactly. Combined with the used car salesman pat on the back as you're doing that really drives it home.
Well, the reason that they were able to have such a charming little conversation was the smell from the body flesh soon left, and Chad and Dale was glad the ritual was finally over. I'm sure that's going to be a dumb sentence of the week, but
sure.
I had to whip it out.
Yes. Well, yeah, once the body flesh smell, that's the only thing really reminding you of the fact that a man was just skinned alive and mutilated in front of you. Once that passes, it's like out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. The man, they were just trembling from his screams as he was in the fire, but hey, the smell it gets out of it's wide open here. There's not a lot of canopy from the trees, so we're good.
Right.
Move on.
But it does. It's not just that one thing that we're led to believe dissipates quickly, because we get this exchange. "Fast cat, come with me," Lightfeather said. "The chief has given us permission to cross the river for the evening at the warm waters. I have prepared a special plate of food for you. The moon is bright, and we will be alone until morning." A smile came across Chad's face, and she knew he was not going to miss an opportunity to spend the evening with her. So yeah, Chad is just thinking, hey, I've still got mine. I mean, mine is not, amongst the embers right now. So I'm
stench of death in my nostrils be damned.
Yeah.
Let's see if this thing works.
He is over the undoubtedly the most disturbing thing he's ever seen pretty damn quickly.
Yes, and he's giving him the old Dale's clapping him on the butt cheek, like, "Go ahead, partner.
Yeah,
have fun. We'll see you in the morning, big shooter."
Yeah, they're doing the shove him into the dorm room and lock the door from the outside type of routine.
Yes, and then they ended up with this, which I thought was just like, Chuck, let it go. Slim Fox wants us to eat with him, and he thinks. His little friend's Big Bear. He thinks you are special and likes to tell the story of your fight with the big cat. For the love of God.
Yes.
I've done other things. That's not
right. It is like a kid, a 4-year-old who saw a dump truck earlier, and then for the next week, it's just like, he's still talking about the dump truck. My God. I know. God. Oh, it was large? You don't say. Really, really loud. Okay, terrific. Daddy is trying to watch the game.
It was after he sets it up, too. He always has to set it up the same way. It was after that bad-eye guy injured me and tried to molest my mom. Okay, right. So we're in this cave, and then take it from here. Here it goes.
God. Oh, yes. So it's a lot of fun. We learned that he has been deemed, they've been deemed each other's soulmates. That usually probably takes about 24 hours, but it's happened here in about 10. So that's how that chapter ends, with them going off across the river to engage in whatever they're going to be up for, because the chief has given them permission. So that's how that chapter ends for me.
That's all I got too. I did imagine though that the warm water spot, isn't it? It's like the warm springs or whatever. Yeah, warm waters.
Yes,
where she took her before. Like, are these reserved? Are they going to come upon just a pile of bodies there? Like, right. How popular is this place? Is all. I just thought of the practicality of, what if we row all the way over there and there's 14 pontoon boats already pulled up? Do we have a backup? It's
one of those spots where they're like, don't geotag this on Instagram, okay? Like, everyone's going to know about it. Like, there's a locals only sign type of thing. Like, yeah. I know it's picturesque, but you just resist the urge. Like, keep it private.
There is a delightful bit of, well, I don't know if it qualifies as schadenfreude yet, but in Minnesota there's a a lake just outside of town that a lot of people go to. A lot of bras go to tie up their pontoons and party around this island. And there's an E. coli outbreak there from them defecating into their own party spot. And it's making the news. I'm not laughing at anyone. I don't think there hasn't been any problem. It's just that it's there. There is E. coli there.
God.
Only because of you know what.
Yes, exactly. Good Lord, people. Well, on a better note than that, why don't we do some?
Ready to go.
All right. So these are the documents that our listeners defecate into to keep that metaphor going.
Yes, please do. Please do.
It's a good one. But yeah, so these are either going to be excerpts from Truckin' Through Time, as written by Charles E. Harris, or they're things that our increasingly clever and skilled listeners have come up with. Let's kick it off. We've got 5 of them. Number 1. Chad, she exclaimed. One of the ladies I had lunch with in Denver yesterday said she was a clairvoyant. She read my palm and told me I would soon meet the man of my dreams and I would completely forget my fiancé. I never believed in that sort of thing, so I just laughed it off. She described the man to have a likeness to you. She said when I met him, we would renew our relationship with more intensity than before. She said she was full-blooded Sioux. She said we are a gift to one another. Lois, did she give you your Indian name? Yes, she did. I think it was, but before she could say the name, Chad answered for her. Light Feather.
I hope. I think that's fanfic.
Okay. Number 2. Chad put his hand on Light Feather's shoulder. He took notice to feel her soft skin one last time, because he knew he would not again be able to feel her warm embrace against him. He took a deep sigh. It's time for Big Bear and I to depart, Chad said. I only wish that the Great Spirit could make it so, but it's time for us to go back to our own time. I deeply wish that I could take you with me, but my world would be strange and unfamiliar to you. You would be like a fish out of water and miss your family. It wouldn't be fair to you and your tribe who loves you. I know, Light Feather said. She clutched the mountain lion tooth necklace with tears in her eyes. She admired and loved Chad more than ever before.
Okay. Took a deep sigh. Boy, is this Heather inside my head? I'm not only going to say it's fanfic, I'm going to call it Heather's fanfic.
Wow. Oh man.
I'm calling my shot.
Then we have number 3. Chad and Dale broke through the thick underbrush and stared at the commotion surrounding their truck. Police vehicles, search and rescue trucks, fire engines, and civilian cars surrounded it on all sides, and people stood around waving flashlights and shouting to each other. But it was Marie who spotted them first. She cried out and charged at them, leaping into Dale's arms and passionately kissing him, while simultaneously punching at Chad's arm. Ow! Damn it, Miss Marie, Chad exclaimed. Marie came up for breath and began berating him. What in the damn hell did you do with my Dale, Chad Wayne Hand? I trusted you with my man, and you disappear with him for a daggone week. Where in the hell have you been? Do you know how worried we all were? Marie, it's a long story, and I am not sure how to tell it to you, but here he is, safe and sound. Finally, an officer on the scene noticed and strode up to them. Mr. Hand? Mr. Rhea? I'm Sergeant Dana Leah. I need to ask you some questions. She winked at them. Chad and Dale stared at her dumbfounded. It was Dancing Leaf.
Well, boy, this makes it tough because of the riveting performance of Miss Marie in the middle of that.
Sorry, I just got inspired.
That's
what she... Don't tell me you haven't imagined what she sounds like or looks like or might, be posting to her own Instagram if she was a ride in 2019.
I assumed tamping down a pack of Marlboro Reds on the inside of her forearm
yes.
and drinking the tall one. I don't know. But I'm going to say it's not your performance that pushed it over the edge, but maybe that's real. I'll say real.
All right. Number 4. Jim Eagle halted before the small stream and turned to Chad and Dale. The Great Spirits say I must stop here. I am not protected if I pass through these waters, he said, pointing the way the 2 men should continue. Chad and Dale looked at each other, sharing a look of sadness. Chad placed a hand on his shoulder and said, We will carry on from here without you. According to Wild Eyes, our iron wagon is just over these hills. 10-4, my friends, said Jim Eagle, using the term of understanding he heard the 2 men using earlier with one another. He placed his hand on Chad's elbow. 10-4, replied Dale solemnly, gripping his other shoulder.
It's well done fanfic.
And then our final one. The general glared at them, clearly not used to having his authority questioned, especially not by two mavericks who had allied themselves with a people that he deemed to be responsible for all the ills of the world. You wretches will pay for your treasonous behavior. These savages have raped and killed willy-nilly across the land for generations, and you talk to me of compassion and reason? I don't deal in compassion or reason or any of your treacherous games. I deal only in facts, and the fact is these animals are going to pay for their disrespectful and uncivilized behavior. We are going to wipe out every last stinking redskin until there are no more left. It will be the final solution to this plague of savagery, the general barked. Chad and Dale glared back at him. How can any man be so blind, thought Dale. He shook his head at the strangeness of it.
Boy, oh boy, if one of our fanfic writers brought in the final solution into the thing, this is making me think that it might be real.
Okay.
But again, it's coin toss for anything could be. We just had a penis chopped off.
Yes,
I don't know anymore.
I'm glad everyone resisted the urge to double down on that, because it would be the best thing in the entire world if that happened again. All right, let's go to the review. Number one was the clairvoyant, who, before she could say his name, Chad answered for her light feather. You said fanfic. That is real.
Oh, my God.
A full-blooded Sioux by the name of Light Feather is turning up back in Denver.
In the present. Oh, right. Oh,
number two, this is the one that was, he took a deep sigh and gave her a mountain lion tooth necklace. You believe that was Heather's fanfic, but it was not Heather's fanfic. It was David's fanfic.
Oh, David, your Heather quality fanfic. That's very heady.
The highest praise, yes.
Yep.
I like the nice touches there, but he took it. I didn't even pick up on he took a deep sigh, but that's very funny. Number three, this was Sergeant Dana Leah. It was Dancing Leaf. You believed that to be real. And she got it again, 4 in a row. She's the Golden State Warriors of real or fanfic. Heather has tricked you yet again.
Yeah, don't get a big head. Everyone's fooling me.
If you had, if I had reversed the order of those two of Light Feather and Dancing Leaf showing up back in real time, it might have. Yeah, that's unprecedented. Well done. Might be time to retire on top of the game. Number 4, Tom H. That was fanfic. You thought it was fanfic, and it was. That was the 10-4 Good Buddy, says Jim Eagle. That was written by Tom H. I just enjoyed the idea that an Indian might pick up on that. It's very funny.
Yes.
And then our last one, you said real, said it was a coin flip, but that was fanfic by Patreon supporter Con, C-O-N-N. He did put final solution in all caps. I don't know if I emphasized that appropriately, but
oh, Con.
I do believe we have some all caps coming up in our later section. So well done, everybody. That was
Con. You went to DEF CON 1 just to fool me. On come on, man.
Wow. Oh man, you're going into Mark Berger territory with the name insults for our Patreons. All right. So let's move on to, I think it was chapter 13 was where we had left off.
Yep, Lucky 13. And boy, no more thrilling first word in a chapter than Collins. That's the first word. Collins could hardly wait to report to the general.
You know, anytime I've had to make a report, it's just the sort of thing. It's like Christmas morning, really. You sort of stay up all night, willing to make that report. And
I think all of our books have had the authors have these weird loops where I don't know where to go. Collins report to the general.
Yep. It's a meeting
Troy's
with Sonny Hakori. Yes.
Yes.
So this is gonna loom large, and I didn't put down the specific thing, but Collins left before the torture, right? Collins got him. They said they left him in the thing. They said, "Get on your horse, get out of here." He left.
Well,
I believe this to be true.
Did they say he left, or they just said leave at your own time?
Oh man, I don't know. But there's no like Collins peeking over the wall. There's no Collins is, it's not from where Chad and Dale stood. It looked pretty brutal, but from where Collins was looking, it was even worse. But
I'm just going back to check on it.
Oh yeah, no, it says yes. I'm looking here right now.
Watching Collins ride off.
Yeah, he was eager to go and never looked back as he rode off. And then, damn it, boy, he's one angry cowboy. He goes out, proposes at the torture pole. They chop the guy's wang off. So,
Wait, what's that? They chopped? Oh, that's right.
Right.
They did.
Yes.
I forgot that.
Yeah,
That's right.
It is the sort of thing that you forget.
Yes.
But yeah, so then as we go forward, he's making this report, and it's as if he was there. So it's a very the timeline was confused. I think it's just sloppy writing.
Wait, from Charles E. Harris?
So yeah, but the report as he's writing, the report he's eager to make. The general would declare those two Indian-loving bastards traitors for sure, Collins thought as he rode hard for the fort. He'll have to put a price on their heads as collaborators to the enemies or spies or something. They'll hang for sure if I have anything to do with it. So he's all out. He doesn't just dislike these guys. He wants them to die. He wants them dead based on, I think, them just sort of mildly mistrusting him the first time they met.
And I guess just, they dressed him down a bit because he's a white man. Whereas Chad and Dale apparently are not.
Yes, he says maybe they aren't white themselves. Maybe they're from another country and trying to organize the Indian against the government or something. So I was just like, I don't know what he means by they aren't white. I mean, American. And then so he assumes that the long con of another European country like Italy or Germany is to send two guys over who are masterfully suppressing their accents to the furthest reaches of the American frontier, two guys to organize an Indian revolt to then throw America into turmoil.
Yeah, he should have done the classic war movie thing. Yeah, sure thing, bud. Hey, how do you like Joe DiMaggio's season this year? I like it very much. It is good, you damn kraut. But they didn't think to do that. There's a great sentence here that describing his ride back. Thinking he could make the fort before sunup if he didn't stop, he galloped along, thinking of nothing but how Chad and Dale could possibly think so much of Indians.
Wow.
After seeing them torture. So he was thinking of nothing but the fort, but then he was thinking of nothing but Chad and Dale.
But them thinking.
About them thinking.
The exception. Wow. That's incredible. I did not pick up on that one.
Layers of thinking. That's what Charles E. Harris is doing when he's writing.
Exactly.
Three-dimensional chess.
But then Collins gets back to the fort, thinking nonstop. He gets there and he's just utterly driven. He entered the gates and headed straight for the general's quarters. He banged several times on the door and began to yell the general's name very, very loud. Captain Troy heard him yelling from the next building and asked, "What the hell are you yelling for so loud for, Collins?" So it's just more nonstop crapping on Collins. People just see him. They are incensed and just, utterly just dismissal of anything he's been doing. Because if Collins was like, well, there's a raiding party 5 minutes behind me and I wanted to get someone's attention before we were all killed, which seems like it could happen a lot in this scenario. But Captain Troy is having nothing of it from the start.
Well, I love the answer, though. Like if you're going to be here in my town coming up for our live show. Mm-hmm. Plugging that.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah.
September 18th?
We announced it already.
We announced it. Yeah, we announced it for Patreon people. But we're doing another live show in Minneapolis, September 18th, Sisyphus Brewing.
We announced it on Like Trees Walking. So.
Oh, nice. All right.
I don't think it's out yet, but anyway.
I mean, I heard that. I listened to it.
Oh, it was out?
No, I don't know. I was pretending that I had listened to it. So.
Oh, okay. Look, it was announced. All right. So you're here. You bang on my door.
Yeah.
And I open the door and I go,
Mike,
oh my God.
Mike.
What? Yeah. Why did you come to my door so fast? Is someone after you? And then you respond like this. No, they let me go. I have to get to the fort and tell General Rollins about these two traitors at Dark Horse Village. Connor, you were banging on my door for like 5 minutes. They went along with the torture of Wilson and did nothing to stop it. Well, I'm very annoyed that you did. They could have said something, but they went along with the whole thing. Like, I don't even know. They seem to think that the general... I mean, there's a paragraph and a half after the, what is it? What are you... What? And then there's this very detailed down to the, we're going microscopic on what he's talking about.
Well, that's pure Harris style. Once you start talking, it's hard to talk until.
I just asked what. Great paragraph.
Yes, wonderful. I will do that. I'll be sure to bang on your door in the middle of the night to say, I don't know. Our show is tomorrow.
There is a bat next to my door. All right, what else you got?
Yeah, so he says he's talking to Troy, who I think is Tim Troy, same guy.
God.
And Collins
you can't give more names to.
It's
Like
unbelievable.
the Silmarillion now.
Just we get names. We get an incredible one coming up that was similar to your thinking one. But he decides that it's time to. Well, what have we not had enough of in this book? I mean, personally, I think Wang severing, but. I may be in the minority. No, Harris believes we have not had enough recounting of what Wilson did to the boy and the wife, because he says Collins is like, those two need to die, they need to be shot, and then Captain Troy says, well, as for Wilson, he almost killed the chief's son. The chief was very angry, as he very well should be. After all, it was his son Wilson attacked and beat. So recap for, I believe, the 27th time. It's sort of like, as we have said before, like the Star Wars backstory. And then he utters this gem, very typical human phrasing. He then regarding the chief, he says, in his mind and beliefs, Wilson had to be tortured. Which called to mind the gifted, also normal phrasing from the Star Wars Episode 3 when Anakin and Obi-Wan are facing off at the very end. I believe I pulled a clip of that.
Anakin, I have failed you. I should have known the Jedi were plotting to take over. Anakin, Chancellor Palpatine is evil. From my point of view, the Jedi are evil. Well, then you are lost.
Well, dang. I mean, that's good, but I thought it was going to be about a Wang being severed.
No, but so they're in the middle. They're like wailing on each other with lightsabers. The planet is burning all around them. And he busts out, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. So this is he's calling for the death of people. But then the captain responds, well, in his minds and beliefs, he had to be tortured. It's like, oh, well, if it was in his minds and beliefs, then sure, I'll drop my entire vendetta against these two.
Well, that dovetails into this phrase that he also uses, and people use this all the time, and I always think the same thing. He says, personally, I have an idea the general will want them tried for treason and shot. Personally, is one of my pet peeves. It's like, I didn't, when you're bringing other people's thoughts that you have in your own head in, you can let me know that, and then we'll just assume that everything else that you say is actually your opinion.
Right.
It's just so weird to point that out. Also, I have an idea the general will want them tried. It's not really an idea. It's, it came up, I worked all night, and I have the idea that...
Yeah, it's personally, my grandfather likes to.
Right. There's just a lot of couching language there that's unnecessary.
Yes, but yeah, Captain Troy has then sent a letter with Jim Eagle to the guys saying that everything that we've already we read a recap of his letter, but the letter is also everything we've already known. He's sending it via Jim Eagle to Chad and Dale, saying that the general is looking into the Census Bureau, type of thing. So we get more of that recapping, and I guess Jim Eagle has delivered that. Jim Eagle delivers it.
Yes.
This was like tricky because Jim Eagle ran into Collins as they were like crossing paths, and they were both. Jim Eagle was leaving the general, Collins was going to him, so it was all sort of weird and unnecessary.
I have a note about that. Like the physical layout of all of it is beginning to drive me bonkers. Like where they stop short of the hill where the village was, where what is the physical layout of this?
Right.
Give us a map if you're going to have these intense things about this group is here, this group is here. They're all Native Americans. They all have similar names, but there's 12 of them. 12 groups, that is, running into each other. It drives me bananas.
Right. But it's far enough away that Jim Eagle needs to like stay overnight, so he's not like waking up the watch in the middle of the night. So it is a decent amount of time for riding a horse for you to think of nothing but other guys thinking about things, thinking something.
There's one of these loops in which I'm both irritated by and sort of hoping they just continue more, when a joke is not funny anymore, but if you keep going another minute, then
Sure.
it's funny. So I'm going to read you a real thing, and then it's me adding to it, and you can tell me when you're done with the whole thing.
Okay.
You ready?
Sure.
Get some rest and cool down. I'll send for you the moment the general arrives. You can have your say then. Thank you, sir. I would like to give the general my opinion on those 2 Easterners. I'll see that you have the opportunity. Then great. So I'll just let him know what I think of them then. Yes, I'll see to it. And at that time, I'll let him know my thoughts. It's my responsibility, and I won't let you down. Yep, he's going to get an earful from me. I'll make sure it happens. I have strong opinions on those 2, and he's going to hear them. If I have my way, that's going to happen. Well, thank you, because I have things to say. So are you sick of it?
Okay, yes. I'm imagining
Most
him.
of that was from the book. Most of it was from the book. I barely embellished it.
I'm imagining him, him slowly like inching back out the door of the office, like closing the door, slowly as he's doing that. Like,
but I don't know why he just gets caught in it, and you just have to kind of kick him off the rail again, like the story of my friend with his dad on the electrical wire. Get him off of there.
So yeah, we get what was the story of your dad on the electrical wire?
Oh, sorry. I brought up something only Patreon people will know. No, it's my friend who worked for his dad was an electrician, and he got sick of going to the box to check to see if a line was, actually active or not. So he would just grab it because he was so used to it. But occasionally he couldn't get off the line. He would freeze him up and he'd be shaking and his teeth would be clenched, and he'd go, "Get me off of here." And so he'd grab a broomstick and pry his dad off of the line so that he himself wouldn't get it. That's his description. I don't know. Electricians will probably write in and say, no, that's not possible.
Right.
But that's what my friend told me.
Or they'll write in and be like, "Oh, sure, a prying broom." Yep. Yeah.
You got to have one.
So then we get more of this, the Jim Eagle reaction. I liked this sentence. Jim Eagle informs them he is very upset that Wilson was not delivered to him for trial, and now that he's been punished by the Indians, he will be angry and vindictive for not having the opportunity to try Wilson himself, in referring to the chief. And I was like, well, to be honest, like the general would be angry and vindictive even if he like got everything on his Christmas list. Or he goes in and the ice cream parlor's like, "Hey, the guy ahead of you actually paid for your ice cream, so this one's on the house." Son of a bitch! Like,
don't they know that I hate when that happens?
Right. So that amused me for the well-faceted well drawn out character.
I like when they bring the message to them, right? And the brave took the letter to Dale's lodge and gave it to him. He thanked the brave and began to dress. So he was nude during that transaction. Yeah. And from what I read, I mean, there was nothing to the contradictory. It wasn't clumsy writing or anything. Like, yep, he was dangling. He was maybe doing a helicopter dance while he handed him the letter.
The words "give me 30 seconds" do exist, even in this 17th or 18th century time frame.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Dale is having his own certainly interesting experience here as Chad is off in the hot springs. He is with Dancing Leaf, and once they receive this letter sort of saying that they are maybe in some trouble, we get this very, very interesting and funny exchange. For the first time since being around Dancing Leaf, Dale noticed that she wanted to hold him. He reached for her and held her as a brother would his sister. And I thought, well, sure, a Lannister brother and sister from Game of Thrones, maybe. But she responded with a tight squeeze and said to him, "It is a shame you cannot feel for me as I feel for you, Big Bear." Dale released her and began to feel guilty. "Dancing Leaf? I had no idea," he said in utter surprise. And to Dale's credit, sure, it is utter surprise because they have known each other for maybe 30 hours. And now she is, announcing that she loves him dearly. It would be like traveling on a cross-country flight sitting next to someone, and then they have announced that they are head over heels in love with you by the end of that journey.
Yeah, this section is actually incredible. I don't even know how to do it justice. If you're not reading this book, you must read this section. It takes so many turns, and you know what? It's just so weird the way that for 1 second he's kind of horny, but she's a sister.
Yeah.
And then just long paragraphs again in that sort of I don't know, court language that we talked about before, where it's very formal. Your compliments are very flattering, Dancing Leaf, and it is hard for me not to return the emotion. Return the emotion? Because you are very desirable, passionate, and beautiful. I guess you have to have the magic 3 there when you do that. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
I am normal. I mean, that one we could parse out. But it has been a few days since I've seen my wife, but you must help me to not be tempted because it is just not right. I have a trusting and loving wife, and I cannot dishonor her by making love to another.
Yeah. There's mental leaps going on. If you assume, as we have the entire time, that these guys are both stand-ins for the author doing his trucking, this is a very much like a grandpa kind of moment.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like Jimmy Carter's adultery. He's committed adultery in his heart from that famous interview. So,
but also talking about it's been a few days since I've been with my wife, which is
no, he's considering it.
Yeah, but he's saying of course, a guy needs it. It's been way too long, a few days.
To be fair, he is experiencing passion and panic here. So
that's true.
But yeah, I mean, I guess I think the last one he did sort of do the she would never know type of thing. We talked about that last time. So I think he's even weaker in this respect. But he is staying true. But he wavers again after he says, I cannot make love to you. I would dishonor her. He then says, Dale felt stupid all of a sudden. Here's a beautiful lady that was in love with him and wanted to take him to bed, and there would be no way Marie would ever know. All this, and he had to let his morals and principles get in the way. No, it's not that, he thought. It's my love for my wife. She has been devoted to me for all these years and certainly deserves no less from me. She is far too good and could never be replaced. So
yeah.
But
that paragraph said, I don't know what to make. It's weirdly admirable, but can we put a strong emphasis on the word weirdly?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Would you put this in a book? Look, honey, huh? This is my attitude when I go on the road.
Could never be replaced is a very peculiar thing to do about this thing that you admit is a fling, since you're not even in your own time.
Yeah,
and
it's my principles are not this. My morals and principles are getting in the way. No, it's not that. It's not. Your morals and principles aren't part of it. It's just that it's my love for my wife. I think those things are tied up together. I don't know. I mean,
sure. As the total package, your love and your what you admire in another person probably is at some point a reflection of what your own values and worldview are, unless you're just completely devoid of any of those things. But the phrase "I am normal," as that's one sentence, is that
I am normal? I think what he's saying is when it's a few days, and an Indian chieftain's daughter wants to take me to the warm water, of course I'm going to do it because I'm normal.
Oh.
I think that's what it means.
Yeah,
I don't think he was saying
I'm only flesh and blood, yeah.
I'm not into weird shit or anything.
Well, because the other thing I read could have been you are very desirable, passionate, and beautiful. I'm just some dumbass, I'm just some truck, I'm normal. I'm not some beautiful type of thing. That could have been the other way.
I don't think so. I think he just meant I'm a normal man in that. Of course, I will take you up on this under any other circumstances than the fact that I'm a 250-pound bearded Southerner with a dominatrix wife who's going to whip my backside if she ever heard about this.
Yeah, exactly. This could be the real thing that's sort of sticking in his back of his mind here, is if he gets back home and she's got her foot on his neck, and he's like, "What did you do while you were away?" And he's like, I made out with, Dancing Leaf. And she's like, well, that's another 2 hours in the Gimp Cave. Like,
She's got a foot on his ear, and she's twisting his hand in the cop hold, and just going like, "You tell me, you know I'm going to get it out of you eventually." All right, I went back in time, and I slept with an Indian chieftain's daughter.
Yeah.
You son of a bitch! Rolling pin comes down on his head.
He's got his 20-year anniversary, like his one hall pass. He's like, I'm using it now, Miss Marie.
I bought you the panty rolled up to look like a rose at the truck stop.
I did bring you back some elk jerky that Collins turned up his nose at because he thought it was dog.
It's supposed to be the best one outside of Green River.
He's like, he's got his eyes closed, but then he feels the boot slightly loosen up on his neck, and his eyes one eye pops open. He knows he's said the magic words.
We don't want any more of Dale's home life. Let's not extrapolate on that anymore.
And then at some point in time, Chad comes back from his hot waters, from his little fling over the night. And this is one I want to get your reaction. He reads the captain's letter as well. We're sort of spared the details for the 12th time, but we do get the scene of him reading it. And then he says,
before you do it, I don't know if there's any way to prove. Like, I want to take a picture of me with the newspaper with the exact thing that you're about to say at the bottom of my page. Just say, my hand is over my heart. I'm hand on the Bible. All right, now go ahead and do your thing, and I'll tell you what I had written down.
So Chad has just read the captain's letter. Well, if this isn't the most ridiculous accusation I've ever heard in my life, that Collins is a real piece of work. If you are thinking what I'm thinking, partner, it's time to act. We have to get to the nearest telegraph office and send our own statement to the War Department. The captain can't because of his position, and there is no one else that knows the complete story and facts. What do you think? So what does Dale think? What is his reaction here? What is to this plan that he's laid out here? What is Dale going to think?
First of all, my hand to God, the exact thing written down. But I assume that he's going to say, look, whoa. I just had a night of some hot lovin', and I don't want to hear any of this garbage. I don't want to hear about generals. I don't want to hear about Collins.
We don't even know how a telegraph works. We don't know where
I just want to lay on some soft buffalo hide and just kind of, just relax with it. Have a little elk, maybe. I don't know. Who knows?
I think you are exactly right. I have been thinking the same thing. So, yep. Despite their time apart and their falling in love and their trips to the hot waters, they are still, the identical people. They are one and the same.
You can take the agreeable guys out of the truck, but you can't take the agreement. Yeah. I don't know. However that works.
You are the 10 to my 4, Dale. But then Dale sort of, he has been thinking the exact same because he has a plan. Very quickly for what they're going to do to get out of this thing. He says, the captain's letter stated the general inquired about us with the Census Bureau. Well, we're in the clear there because there would be nothing on our even being born. We can adjust to that by telling him we were born at home and our parents were never contacted by anyone from the Bureau at that time. Hell, we can always answer those types questions well enough to satisfy him. So Dale, lest we remind you, is not even sure which century it is, but he is intimately familiar with the minutia of the current Census Bureau and what type of things you can say to, get them to drop all inquiries into you by just saying, oh, we were born at home and our parents were never contacted by anyone from the Bureau. So there we go.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that that Dale was even scared of that, given that he thought he was in the 17th century, is mind-boggling. But also, in the middle of that, we can adjust to that? Is that a phrase that
yeah,
that's not how I think of we can adjust.
No, yeah, we can get out of that by, we
can get out of that.
Yeah.
Adjust to that.
Yes, he's doing some adjusting on the fly. I mean, Dale is essentially saying when he asks us that, we'll just say, nah. Well, yeah, that'll get us to him to start barking up that tree, Yeah. But yeah, so that's their that's the last thing I have from that chapter is their brilliant scheme to get out of any census-based inquiries.
And it ends, the chapter ends, of course, in total agreement. 10-4? 10-4, Chad. So there you go. Yeah, that's the last note I had for that, too.
Yeah, me too. Well, and then we get to chapter 14, which is going to bring us home for this time around.
Oh, chapter 14. Let's see. Do we start with a meeting with the general?
We do
Collins
indeed.
was sitting on the porch of the general's office.
So this is great. Collins is essentially he wants the army to go attack the Indians to get revenge, but this is dependent on reinforcements coming. And so we get this, and I'm gonna add into just remember as we read this, Collins is talking to the general whose name is Rollins. Very well, Captain. You and Collins come into my office. I see the replacement troops from Fort Collins have arrived. So Rollins has admitted Collins and the troops from Fort Collins.
What news from Saruman? Has Sauron weighed in with him at all?
Yes. Well, the troops from Fort Sauron have arrived as well. It's incredible. And then he's got blues musician Sonny Rollins there to anyway, but he has some bad news. He has only received 25 soldiers and then 75 new recruits who are arriving in a few more days. So that it doesn't seem like enough to really launch the attack that Collins is all frothed up about at the moment.
No, so luckily we quickly past that, though. That has been, this has been the, I guess, I don't know, the waiting for Godot thing. Like when those replacements come, boy, oh boy, this thing is going, it's like a rocket ship to the moon. You can't stop this thing. But it's like, nah, it's not a big deal. That was nothing.
Yes.
So luckily we're back into Captain Troy and Collins
Yes.
in front of General Rollins again. And then the long thing. And this is one thing he says about Chad and Dale that I was absolutely puzzled by. So I'm asking for the help of everyone here. Mm-hmm. He's contemptuously saying about them, they are set up awfully good not to have red skins themselves. And I just read that. So
they are set up awfully good not to have redskins themselves.
So does he mean they are set up awfully good as redskins, seeing as they are not themselves redskins? In other words, they're soaking in the luxury of being redskins without themselves having. They are set up awfully good not to have redskins themselves.
That's
so,
yeah. It's
okay.
It's incoherent. Yeah, I mean, they're set up. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
yeah.
So it is puzzling, right?
Yeah,
I'm not missing some big.
No,
okay.
It's a terrible sentence, and it's a based on what the general is saying, it's sputtered incoherently. So maybe he just misspoke in his rage.
I don't know.
Too much credit.
Yeah, stop thinking about it. Sorry, I brought it up. It's my fault.
But yeah, he gets a telegram that says, attack on village is your call, but only to prevent hostile activity against whites. And then we get the time confusion with Collins, which the general says, our fine captain omitted the details of Wilson's torture, I'm sure being the gentleman he is. You could tell your side, Collins, but spare me the goring details. So I don't know whether the Wang severing counts as a goring detail. I'd classify it more as a gory one. But since Collins was not there to witness it, who knows what he was going to say when he was asked to present the goring details.
That was one of my many dumb sentences. For some reason, that just made me laugh. That, Charles E. Harris in the middle of it all, because it's not a typo.
Right.
It's a different word. Those are worthy of some mention, I think. I think that's fair.
Right. And then I didn't have anything else with their meeting because we've already pretty much had the meeting with the general 3 different times by now. But it goes back to our friends in the village. And
wait, I have just one thing on that. So this is constantly repeated, and I don't. I think this must be from Troy. Our job here is not complete until the general is stopped and the changes made to keep the Sioux Nation free from threats from the white man's greed. And I don't there's nothing specific here, right? It's just generic white man greed. In other words, like, they're not building a shopping mall over their thing. Like, I'll die before I'll let them build that new development. But they keep saying that, the white man's greed.
Right.
And it's like, they're fighting them and stuff, but I just don't know what that means specifically when they just go, and everyone just goes, right, the white man's greed.
Right, yeah, true.
You mean us. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Maybe it's like like last time where they, one of them said, like, he's raping the land, like, maliciously. Maybe this is like, if they're raping the land while greedy, that makes it a worse type of thing. I'm not sure how that really works out. But yeah, like they're in this little hovel of a fort, I guess, in the pure wilderness. So I'm not really sure what there's enough of everything to go around at this point in time.
Yeah, I just don't know what I thought from a story angle it would have been, like I say, building a mall or something. Like, yeah, that's just so that mean old guy is going to tear down our great Indian village and make this. But
he's going to bring the J.C. Penney there. I mean, it's
I brought the photomat.
Well, yeah. So we go back to our non-greedy white men who are living in the high life without redskins. And they are being informed that the medicine man, the shaman, wants them to go to the praying place with them. They talk about this quite a bit, he wants them to go to the praying place to do some sort of ritual, and they can discuss sort of what the plan is going to be, because they are now been informed that they are going to be invaded. And going off to pray is going to be Chad Dale, the medicine man, and the two ladies. And we get we get sort of Chad. Chad is still in this sort of post-coital bliss here. He's watching Light Feather, and it's like Dreamweaver is playing. Chad watched Light Feather as she bounced gracefully with each movement of her pony, her long hair blowing in the wind and her breast heaving with each step the pony took. He was amazed at her smooth golden skin and how her arms and legs, so long and shapely, glowed against the morning sun. She actually seemed to glow like a picture of an angel without wings. She was truly magnificent, beautiful, and sensuous. So yeah, Chad is just still horned up as hell, but she seemed like a picture of an angel. I don't know if that's just an intentional, like, he's never seen an actual angel. He's only seen pictures of them, so that's what he's envisioning. But it's a very it's a step removed from. We don't know what you were saying if you just said she glowed like an angel. Right.
Yeah, that was a hilarious one for me, because after the first thing, like, I watched as she bounced on her pony, and then I went to make a note like, well, yeah, what is Chad looking at as she bounced? And then the next line is her bosom was bouncing. All right.
Yes. Right.
Make it explicit,
right.
Chuck.
Like all those angels with heaving bosoms we're all familiar with. That old cliche. And then out of nowhere, a rider appears from the brush, and we are informed that it is Red Coyote, brother of Wolf Claw. And so if you're not insane, I assume you had to Control F to see who Wolf Claw was.
I couldn't Control F it so I left it to you. I knew, I'm like, I'm exhausted from this.
Yes. Wolfclaw was just one of the guys that when Patch started the massacre, he was one of the guys that died in that massacre.
Okay.
But anyway, so Red Coyote is upset. He has a clear look of rage in his eyes, and he tells them, Dancing Leaf sort of translates, he says you must fight him, or he will kill the medicine man and take Light Feather away. He says you have no power, that you are weak and defenseless. Light Feather had her hand over her mouth and looked worried for Chad. So Light Feather is, just doing the like type of thing from an anime or something. And
right.
But then Chad is not concerned. He learned long ago that sometimes the best offense is a better defense. Best offense is a better defense. He looked at Light Feather and winked, and with a smile of confidence, dismounted. Dale turned to look at Light Feather and gave her a warm smile, because he knew what Chad was doing when he broke the spear over his knee and tossed the pointed end away. And we're coming up on, page 194 was among my favorite things we've ever read, but this might be my favorite sentence in the book coming up. Dale had seen Chad fight with pugil sticks before. That bomb is just dropped on us over 200 pages into the book. I guess we knew they were karate experts, but we're informed of not only that pugil sticks exist, but that Dale has seen Chad fight with them before at their underground Atlanta fight club or whatever the hell they're doing.
Their trucker club, yeah. It makes perfect sense. Look, before we get into, because this will be, I assume, the centerpiece of the end of this podcast will be this magnificent fight, and it is nearing the end. So I just want to get back to this, is that, so these two guys who, one of them married to Miss Marie, both from the South, right? They said, maybe we will see a vision of some sort. You know, the guy keeps talking, we want to take you to this place. Mm-hmm. And they're just buying in. He says to him, maybe we'll see a vision of some sort. Stranger things have happened. It's like, is that your worldview? Like, does it fit in? And then Dale responds, I know, we may at that, said Dale. And then I just thought I'd add on to that. By the way, Miss Marie and I are strict Baptists, and if this stuff is explicitly forbidden, we will most certainly be brought before the leaders and elders of our church, a very tight community with whom we are very close, and be ejected through a very painful process that will rend families and lifelong friendships. It will undoubtedly change the very fabric of our community, and all of it will dishonor the God I claim to serve and obey. Sounds good, Dale.
Sure,
that's
exactly. I agree with that.
They're buying into it 100%. No questions about it. Like, you know.
Yeah. And, I suppose if you've traveled back in time and you've met these guys, it could be like, someone doing a semester abroad and participating in some weird local ritual. But then again, they did just see the guy, cut the guy's wang off. So like that's if you're gonna buy into whatever mysticism they might have, that might be a point where you start questioning whether they really are doing the right thing with all these rituals and stuff.
And then making stilted speeches about their own morals and certainly would like to have relations with you, but my morals and values, what they are. Hey, you want to go see a vision? Might be a demon or something. Sounds good.
Yeah, exactly. And then not only once they get there, the very first thing the medicine man does is strip naked and start slicing himself up, and does not really clarify that they, there's a moment where he takes off his clothes where they had to have assumed they are required to do that as well.
Right. Anyway, sorry, I had to have that aside as to what's going on, and now let's get back to the thrilling fight.
To the pugil sticks. So yeah, don't know what those are. I guess I could look them up as we speak, but I assume they're just some sort of like, stick type of thing. But the Marine Corps pugil sticks? Are pugil sticks those things that the American gladiators use?
I didn't look it up either. I assumed short sticks that.
If you Google them, they're like those things with wrapped in foam. It looks like so. That's the American gladiators joust.
Oh, okay.
Or that you can do at a 2-bit carnival. Anyway,
so like the like Star Trek with the
Ponfar. Is it Ponfar or is that the other thing?
The one with the famous battle music.
Amok team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm sure we'll be corrected on that. But
oh my God, do not correct us. I do not care. I did not care about kerning. I do not care about whether that is Ponfar or Amok team or whatever the hell. So yeah, they start fighting. But Dale is very. Oh no, Chad is very skilled and very quick and truly confident in his ability to disarm an opponent with speed and efficiency. Once again, the big brave lunged at Chad. Chad met him this time, dropping underneath his body and tipping him over as he rolled over his legs, pinning him to the ground and bringing the pugil stick around his throat from behind with just enough tension as to not break his neck. Red Coyote was totally helpless. Everyone but Dale, who had taught Chad the move, was surprised as to how easily and efficiently Chad had placed Red Coyote in so defenseless a position. Dale had taught him to end the roll with the Japanese stranglehold. But Chad had used the stick to perfection. So Dale has to be. I mean, I'm disappointed that we didn't get to any Japanese strangleholds getting pulled off. But Dale sort of is like, well, not what I would have done. But I'm proud of you, boy.
Yeah, I felt like that moment, which when he says, I taught him that move, was once again the author just doing the little peeking into the story and waving, like,
yes.
Yep. I know that move.
That's exactly. Yeah, he's just dropping the way you drop a specific concert date to a Grateful Dead fan, just to like sort of a signal that you know the shared language.
Right.
But then he has impressed the brave. He says the brave drops the old chestnut. You must be an Indian to have defeated a warrior with so many coups on his lodgepole. To which I assume Dale and Chad were just like, yep. He has a lot of coups on his lodgepole. That's a good thing. Yeah, of course that's a good thing. Yeah, I mean, I've all seen lodgepole, and you've
got like 6 lodgepoles. Yeah, I got an extra. You guys want a lodgepole? Lodgepoles all around?
I had to buy a second lodgepole when I filled the first one up with coups. So, and then we get this. Chad looks at Lightfeather and received a look he had never seen in anyone's eyes before. She had a look of admiration, love, and happiness all together. And I call 100% BS that he's never seen this look in anyone's eyes before, because Dale must have been looking like him like that for the majority of their trip on, I-80 to 78 to I-295 to, Galena or wherever the hell they were getting off back to, anyway.
When he was handing up all those groceries, you don't think he was fixing him with one of those looks? I have seen that look before, but it was from everyone at the Dave and Buster's when I beat the high score on Pop a Shot.
Oh, sure.
So,
yes.
Love, admiration, love, and happiness. All
Speaking
together.
of slow claps, that was those teenagers were really impressed.
That's right.
But yeah, so they get out there and they go to. There's a time when Dale, it says they sort of want some details about the hot springs. Dale wanted to ask Chad about his night in the warm pools of water with Lightfeather, but thought better of it. Chad wanted to ask Dale if he indeed slept alone, because he was told by Lightfeather how Dancing Leaf felt about him. But they each had a lot to discuss, but not at this particular time.
Yeah, this struck me as a moment of, they're headed to the sacred mountains. There's all this talk of spirituality. Maybe we will see a vision, Dale. But they're doing the, hey, brah.
Yeah, third base, huh?
Sarah Torgenson's boobs. How'd you like to get into her tent?
Yeah, exactly.
Gentlemen, please. We're about to do a Bible study here.
Yes. And not only that, one of them had just, fought another guy who wanted to fight him to the death. But they're still just, yeah, well, the springs weren't the only thing that was hot, if you catch my drift. Yeah, she knew how to use every part of the buffalo, if you know what I mean.
Talk about a coup stick. Whatever.
Yes. Yeah. I'm sure that's deeply disrespectful, but we'll move on.
Please.
And so the medicine man, as we said, is stripping naked. He has a knife and cut a long streak across his chest. And Dancing Leaf and Lightfeather are taking the whole thing on, but he's working himself up into a frenzy. And he drops to his knees. He gets a look on his face that was definitely the look of someone in a trance or serious state of mind. I'm glad he assumed that we were questioning that and felt the need to say it was definitely that look. It was a Kleinian touch.
I thought also about that particular moment, like he definitely look, or someone in a serious state of mind. So in a trance, or, God, you know what? I have to buy a new water heater, and I simply don't have the money right now. Is there any way that we could? No, this is serious. I gotta do it.
Right? Yeah. The look you put on when your husband or wife walks in the door to let them know that, like, no, we have to talk, like that sort of thing.
Right. But before he strips naked, right, and then when they came close to the circle, the shaman took a pouch, tossed 3 bear claws, 3 pieces of silver into the circle, like. So the shaman had gone to Schlesky's that morning, got some babka, a knish, and some bear claws. Tossed them into the fire. Wow. Hey, there you go.
I was at Zabar's. They charge a little extra, but it's oh man, it's just worth it.
Now the Great Spirit knows I'm serious because I love Zabar's bear claws.
Yeah. So then, but then all this stuff actually works. There's a blast of thunder, and when it rolled past, giving way to total silence, a giant light came across the sky. When the light diminished, an eagle appeared overhead with widespread wings and hovered above them. So I believe this is the scene we're seeing on the cover of the book, with this the eagle appearing. I'm not sure the significance the bald eagle had to the Sioux tribe. I feel like that is more of a sort of American colonizer type of thing, but who knows? Maybe they did.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
And then the eagle speaks to them, and it gives them a long rant. It says, "You will give them a gift for their journey back to their own time. It will be a heartfelt desire for each. Light Feather and Dancing Leaf will be with them in a short time after their departure." So I guess that's what we saw hinted at in the fan fiction, that the time will not be enough to keep these two apart from their Indian soulmates.
Yes, and through this whole thing, I would just say there was a lot of amazement going on around here. Not only were they surprised, they were amazed that they had actually seen what the shaman had seen. And to further amaze them, the shaman was now looking to them to settle all the trouble between the general and the chief.
Oh, my God.
So everybody's amazed.
Perfect. And they should be amazed, because we are informed that no white man has ever seen the Great Spirit until today. You are truly blessed with special gifts of knowledge. And we were informed that Light Feather and Dancing Leaf do not see the spirit, so they are left out of this, which must, I bet they're kind of cheesed about that whole thing. They're like, we've been worshiping the Great Spirit our entire damn lives, and these two idiots show up and, toss a bear claw into a ring, and now they get to see it?
Right. And then they do some quick theology here.
Yes.
This is when we do get a clue that they're, this is called syncretism. You're trying to make everything work together.
Sure.
And this is their quick version of trying to rewrite everything. Maybe God has a plan and revealed it through an ancient Indian ritual. Whatever the answer, they felt compelled to do what came to their minds for these people with such religious beliefs. It was surely their calling. I just thought to myself, if there's any connective thread that runs through the Hebrew and Christian holy books, it's do whatever comes into your mind. So they just blessed them that a spirit told them do whatever came into your mind. So that torture pole did look kind of fun.
Yes, exactly.
Let's get that thing fired up.
Well, I just liked, based on this, they've lived their whole lives, with whatever their religion is, but then they're here for 2 days, and Great Spirit reveals himself to them. He is clearly the one true God in this book's world, they are like. It'd be like if I was, walking along, and then, I'm struck into the ground. The heavens quake, and then, Ganesh reveals himself, in the sky to me, and tells me, I'm Ganesh. This is what I do. Blah blah blah. And he leaves, and then I say, wow, Yahweh sure picked a weird way to present himself to me. Brother, I got to go to talk to my pastor about this and let him know that we're on the right track here, because God is clearly that was just, it struck me as very funny that they quickly were like, sweet, we were on the right track all along.
Yep, let's make it work with our thing. But it gives them the whole holy send off, and I just thought this is a great. I wanted to rewrite the ending of this chapter. And so after being identified by the Great Spirit and the God of the universe as holy men and prophets, Chad and Dale gathered together their sandwich bags of pee and threw them into the Jordan River. They're holy men. Our Chad and Dale are now holy men.
Yes, I guess so. They're the first white men to ever see this God.
I mean, this is in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew Testaments, if you were a false prophet, the penalty was death. And so anything that came from God, like a vision of God, you write it down, and then every child and every person remembers it and passes it on. And so this is a new holy book. So we got to get this down, and we got to slap it in. We got to have a new Council of Trent and make sure it gets in here.
So the way that this section has ended has been they see a guy get his wang cut off, burnt alive, marriage proposal, banging in the hot springs, God reveals himself to them, deems them worthy of holy men. The last 100 pages of this work, he really needs to step up the game here to keep this escalating, because this can't possibly have peaked. This is just, and pages apart from each other, these amazing events keep happening. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if they're going to, achieve divinity themselves as they ascend and meld their minds with the Great Spirit. They become great spirits themselves. I mean,
I assume that Charles E. Harris was making frantic calls to Ethan Nicole's little brother, Axe Cop author Ethan Nicole, going, now what? Now
Yes,
come
exactly. Yeah, you need to take it from 14 up to like 15 or 16 or something on the thing, or maybe Miss Marie will just trample him in stilettos. Maybe that can be the that's the ultimate.
Oh, if you guessed that ending and that is correct, we just end
you
the
guessed it.
podcast.
You're the one who made her the dominatrix. This is the rare.
But that was not. I mean, it wasn't pulling it out of nowhere. They keep talking about her wailing on people.
Oh man, well, yeah, that is spectacular. That's all I've got. But we have some sentences and emails. If you got nothing else,
I have nothing else. You want to do? What do you want to do first?
let's do emails. So our first email is from Blake, who we mocked this in the first episode, where they were when they saw the herd of buffalo, and we're like, if someone was hiding this, we'd be reading about this on the news for weeks. And we thought that was preposterous. Blake sends us a headline: herd of 75 buffalo eluding capture in upstate New York may have broken into groups. And so he says,
wait, when is this from?
This is from like this week. He says an errant herd of buffalo can dominate the news. He says, granted, it's only 75, and it's only dominating the media in the sense of rating a smallish story at an upstate New York outlet, but I think it's a valid proof of concept. Maybe if it had
75? That's a Charles E. Harris number. That's the number
that's the number of new
Sioux.
Recruits. Yeah.
Yeah, and recruits, yeah.
Wait, number of Sioux? Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
he was when he was
The number
scouting
that he
out that one
sized up.
location.
Wow. All right. The plot thickens.
Oh.
But yeah, he says, had it been 200 times bigger, maybe it would have got a mention on, I don't know, Yahoo or something.
That's hilarious.
This is from Devin. Another quirk of Charles E. Harris writing I keep seeing is the splitting of compound words into two separate words. Shoot out, straight, forwardness, downstream, soul mate, undermanned, stranglehold, etc. After noticing it the first time, I keep finding more examples. And yeah, those do stand out when you sort of read them. It just makes it seem more stilted. But then Devin also adds, my wife and I have met the Winnebago Man in person. He says, we attended the screening show at the end of a documentary. He is a delight. And he checked in when I inquired. Winnebago Man is still alive and kicking, much to our happiness.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I what is that documentary? It was like from 8 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess for
I
some
think he was
reason.
living in the North Woods. I think I have a connection to the crew itself, but I haven't gotten the lowdown. Maybe I'll visit that, and maybe I can give a little update on Winnebago Man, because that's really what this podcast is all about.
Yes, please. We get this one from Ben. He says, I think I figured out why all the characters are so agreeable with each other, and I think it's going to be an exciting third act twist. Dale discovers he's in Westworld, and Chad is a sex robot. You never know.
Now, come on. Just keep it to penis chopping, this kind of stuff.
Well, speaking of that, we got an email from Len Snark, who is not his real name, and you will see why, because he wrote a short story. He wrote erotic fan fiction. He claims I requested this. I do not remember doing any such thing. I think I requested erotic fan art. But this is an excerpt from his book, which, of course, is called Fucking Through Time. It says, I put the whole thing on Twitter, so if you want this, you can go and read it. But here's an excerpt. I had never known the touch of a man on my own personal steering wheel before. But Wild Eyes said the Indian embraces such things and sees no shame in it. Why, I've got to say, I agree with him after that. So if that has piqued your curiosity, the entire story is available on Twitter. I have Len Snark's real name, but I will not say it for fear that his employer is one of our listeners here. So thank you, Len. I guess.
Is Len? He probably has the email handle that my friend had to reject a very qualified person from a very well-paying managerial position, whose email was fartball69 at Hotmail or so, whatever it was. So that, Len, you're going to lose another job if you keep this up.
Sure. Oh man, I wonder what fartball's doing these days. We have a lot of dumb sentences, so let's get right to them.
A sentence begins with a capital letter. A capital letter is a letter that's big. A capital letter is not a small letter. A capital letter is big, big, big. A sentence ends with a period. or an
Yeah,
exclamation.
a lot
or
of dumb
question
sentences
mark.
this time. I forget what our record is, but this has been just a ton of people writing it. So let's get to them. First one, Aaron. We will be conceived as preposterous if we aren't careful as to how we word the message, Dale began. That's how Dale began. That's it's gonna escalate from there. Here's Tom's. The spirits have delivered to us the villain for Indian justice. Tom adds, or as we usually call it, justice, since we obviously wouldn't use modifier when describing stuff we ourselves do.
Right.
I mean, if we did use a modifier, it would probably be our tribal name instead of lumping ourselves in with all the other Indian guys, right? Anywho, let's go ahead and scalp this guy, cut off his genitals, and roast him alive. Justin writes in, Indians are known to be superstitious and religious in their own way because they pray to the several gods. So, yeah, you can see they're totally embracing their theology here by saying they are known to be superstitious and religious in their own way. So I bet they were pretty shocked when it ended up actually working.
Right.
This is from Heather and her son Billy. I think a different Heather. You can bet your little moccasins I'll marry you. Heather says, I read it to Billy, who's 11 years old, at the dinner table, and he just got up and walked away.
That was the one I foreshadowed earlier as one of my dumb sentences.
Oh, man.
Never fear. There are many, many more.
We've talked about it many times before, but that is the reaction that R.C. Koba's brother-in-law got when he played his album for the first time at Thanksgiving. His brother-in-law just got up and wordlessly walked away. So I'm glad Billy has is replicating that momentous achievement. Here's Jim. I don't eat dog meat, Colin said sarcastically. And he says, I don't think Charles E. Harris understands sarcasm. He should have just gone with, ooh, yeah, bring me that yummy dog meat.
Right.
But then again, he's a published writer and the subject of a hilarious podcast, so I'm not sure what do I know. Con, our Patreon, who submitted some fanfic earlier, they were hunting this land and protecting their interest while your ancestors were burning women at the stake for witchcraft. Which is, that was one of my favorites. Shane says, you actually think we could get out alive if we made an attempt? What is the, I don't know what the hook is there, but sure, sounds dumb. But I guess
if you don't make an attempt, you are not going to escape.
Sure. And, him asking that, the other one is probably going to say, oh, no, I don't think we could. They're going to say, yes, of course I think we could. Brad, the main course will be elk, not dog, and you are welcome. And Brad adds, maybe Collins was too focused on the stories on the back of the menu and didn't read the actual courses.
That to me sounds like actual sarcasm there. You are welcome. That's
exactly.
How you do sarcasm.
Yeah, I suppose. Elizabeth, we found him in a cabin where we sat a trap. I accept that, yes. It's we don't normally rag on the typos, but every now and then you've got to embrace them when you get them. David said, just where does that leave the Indian and the tribes that have hunted this land in peace with themselves and their natural spirits and beliefs? I don't know. Where does this leave the Indians and tribes that have hunted this land in peace with themselves and their natural spirits and beliefs? Joe submitted, I am normal. It just made him laugh. We parsed that one for a while. Brian, Patreon supporter, said she actually seemed to glow like a picture of an angel without wings. I do agree that is very dumb, but it makes me laugh as well. Janelle, Patreon supporter, trusted listener. Dale felt stupid all of a sudden. I do not remember the setting for that one, but that is a great sentence. Heather, I think
that was during the weird back and forth flirtation, possible sleeping with, possible infidelity, possible,
his possible feeling normal. Yes.
Yes.
This is Heather. I think this is the Heather that tricks you. Chad, Chad says, you excite every sense in me from passion to panic, and I would be honored to have you to show off to my mother and family. So there we go. Passion, panic, many senses, everything in between, the classic false range. Delightful stuff, people. Thank you for sending them in. What is yours?
Before I get to it, the passion and panic thing. What was the third in that? Do you have it right there? Passion. You excite everything in me from passion to panic. Anyway,
and I would be honored to have you to show off to my. It was just the two sentences are from passion to panic, and I would be honored to have you to show off to my mother and family.
Okay. Well, I just thought you were getting near a Smiths song there from passion to panic or something.
I love finding the hot woman with her bosom heaving as she rides a horse, and then thinking like, I want to show her off to my mom.
Yeah.
That's what I want. That's what I want to do. Yeah.
Okay, so I have this one. I have just a couple examples, just because this is pure E. Harris. Everyone left, and Chad and Dale were alone for a few minutes. So they're talking about everyone together, and then everyone left, but Chad and Dale weren't part of the everyone.
Yes. Okay.
It's just his weird way of describing physical things drives me
Sure.
nuts. Like, wait, who's here right now?
Right. Since they are the protagonists, you understand that they must be here at all times agreeing with each other. They would not leave us to be in a teepee with nobody.
Yes. Can't believe this didn't come up unless I missed it and was reading, and if I do, we'll edit it out. He is checking with the Census Bureau to see if you actually exist.
Well, no, we talked about their plans to avoid that, but no.
Yeah, but not the actual. I think there was a different description of what they were going to do. There's two mentions of the Census Bureau, but that was one of the reasons they were going to check with them.
Yeah. Hello, Census Bureau here.
Do you exist? I see these guys. I'm pretty sure they're just a projection onto my mind.
Yeah. I don't know. That Great Spirit's been appearing a lot these days, and clearly that's our God appearing. So if our God is appearing as the form of two white men who may not be white or may not be from this country, I've got a lot to learn about theology. But
yes, my final one. For once, Dancing Leaf nor Lightfeather said anything to Chad or Dale as to what was being said.
Oh my God.
So we get that classic nor. So I think that came up before. Neither Chad nor Dale had ever seen a wolf. No, it wasn't even that. It's so again, for once, Dancing Leaf nor Lightfeather said anything.
Once.
Again, so you take out that conjunction of nor, and you get for once, Dancing Leaf said anything to Chad or Dale. And then as to what was being said. So no one didn't say anything as to what was being said.
I think this is...
anyone can make...
I think that sort of diagramming is covered in verse 7 of the sentence song.
Okay. That's right. We have to listen all the way to the...
no one has ever made it that far.
The full hour edition of that.
Mine is one we've already covered. It was just, damn it, boy, Collins is one angry cowboy. It just made me... Collins is calling for your death actively, I think, and you're making him seem like, well, we've got our kids menu that you can order from the Angry Cowboy section, little shooter, and so it made me laugh.
That Collins, he's no Rollins, even if he goes to Fort Collins.
It's sort of like that Hop on Pop that Charles E. Harris was reading to his cute grandkid in that thing we listened to earlier.
Oh yeah, and that grim bit of family dysfunction that you dropped in on and stole from them off of a dark web. You are one weird guy.
All right, well, I think that's going to do us for this time. Thanks again to Patreon supporters. Join us on Patreon at patreon.com/372pages. Maybe we'll do another call-in show. I think we're going to do a contest. They knew about the live show before all of you, so they were booking their tickets. But thanks to everyone. For next time, we're going to read through chapter 16. That's page 285. We've got 2 more Truckin' Through times to give you.
Oh, this last reading. Is this slightly shorter than the last one?
It is indeed. It is indeed. Okay. Yeah, we've had some long ones. It's tricky. And it's a difficult book on your eyes. It's harder to read than other books. It's just really when it just keeps repeating itself.
It is, and I'm getting to the point where the not being able to, because the PDF that I have, not all of them are, I can't copy the sentences when I'm making
it's very
notes.
hard. It's very irritating.
It's very frustrating. Anyway. All right. Well, thanks everyone for marching through this with us. Damn, boys, we love it. So we'll be back for another.
I sure do. I agree with that.
So long.
Bye.